It's been a couple months, so I think it is time that we go try another tier list, but this one is going to be formatted a bit differently. Instead of doing bottom tier, top tier, low tier, blah blah blah, I'm going to be rating groups of characters out of 10. That's right, 1 to 10 with some decimals, and don't worry about that. And so, it's going to be like clumps of characters that in those tiers, if the characters have the same number, they are going to be interchangeable, everyone in that tier, because there are so many minute differences of characters that slightly put them over, but it's like, okay, well, in a different bracket or a slightly different person or whatever, something happens that they're basically just interchangeable at any given time. And a fun fact about this tier list is the fact that I'm not going by theory, I'm not going by results, but I am going to be talking about them in terms of a tournament format, quote unquote, because, inconsistency is going to be very important to me as a detriment to a character. If you are more consistent, but your peaks are slightly worse, that is still going to be a very good, a better character in my opinion, than a character with some peaks but then less consistent overall. So with that in mind, let's get into it. So remember how I said I'm going to be rating characters out of 10? The worst character in the game, in my opinion, is a 4, and the worst character in the game is going to be Little Mac. I think this character, they reverted his buffs, they nerfed him, they got rid of the cool jab thing, and that was basically why he wasn't one of the worst characters in the game last patch. But yeah, now he's just the same character he used to be, which is really bad, really inconsistent. Kirby is also really bad, almost no air mobility, very few combos, stages that just don't function for him. It really, it goes far, but it's a fairly abusable recovery. Decent edge guarding, actually very good edge guarding with down air, with inhale, with back air. Back air out of shield in general going to be pretty good. F tilt still a pretty good move. Again, this character does have stuff, which is why he's a 4, but unfortunately every character above him just has more stuff. Again, every character that's not, at a rating of 4, which in my opinion are all interchangeable. Little Mac might be slightly better than Kirby or slightly worse than Kirby, who are also slightly better or worse than K. Rool, who's going to be the last character I rank as a 4. I think this character is just incredibly underwhelming, not a lot of combos, a lot of knowledge checks, but in a tournament setting, you're going to run into these players that know the matchup, that understand all the gimmicks of this character, and when that happens, he is really, really bad. An exploitable recovery, even though you can angle the up B, not the greatest edge guarding, not the greatest kill confirms, although he is just generally strong. Obviously forward tilt, down smash, up smash, back air, those are all going to be really powerful moves, but it's just hard for him to get anything started. A lot of his setups are fake, and unfortunately if your setups are fake and you have to rely on gimmicks, I do not think that is a good character. At the 4.5 rating, we are going to start off with Mii Brawler. Again, they reverted the changes that happened to him in the 3.1, 4, whatever patch that they added the fall speed change to him, which actually gave him a lot of cheeky zero deaths. They got rid of that, so now short hop fair doesn't auto cancel. So while he does have some combos and still has pretty good custom moves with the, burst, side B command grab, shot put, a couple other ones, he's still going to be now a lot more underwhelming of a character because he's not going to be gimmicking people at 0, gimmicking people at 60 when you already have to beat them in neutral 2 or 3 times is not going to be the same thing as landing nair, down tilt, fair, up B, killing people at 0. That's kind of silly. He doesn't have that anymore. Still not a terrible character. You still have to know the matchup, but I do think he is on the lower end, clearly at a 4.5. Yes, I still think Robin's really bad. Still bottom 5-ish, area, going to be a 4.5. Again, I think a lot of this character is just knowledge checks, and granted, decent knowledge checks that if you don't guess right or you don't know them, kill you at 70. If you don't know how to get around arc fire, if you don't know if you can crouch or really just punish thunder, if you don't understand how to edgeguard this character will now live a lot longer, get some cheeky kills, but I still think this character has really underwhelming options in neutral. If you play defensive, it is so hard for this character to get in. They have to use their resources to try to kill you, and then if they don't have Levin Sword, now this character can't kill you. And then if they don't have Thunder, they don't have a long range attempt, so now you can just kind of camp if you want to. If they don't have Fire, they can't ledge trap you, so going a little bit more aggressive or going off stage is going to be decently good to just generally do. And so unfortunately I still think this character not super great. This hasn't changed my opinion, even though Jewel did have a really nice run at Shine that was kind of complemented by Waddy not going, and then Riddle's getting upset by F Sharp, so he dealt with a Ken, which is a decent matchup for him as opposed to a Richter, which would outcamp and outkill this character. So just overall not super great. 4.5. Another 4.5 character is going to be Dr. Mario. This character, a bit scarier, obviously, you know, tournament setting, down throw, down B, really scary, but I feel like people have been learning how to DI that properly and aren't dying to it as early as they used to. You know, I'm living at down throws near the ledge at like 60% when I used to die at 40 or 35. You know, it was kind of ridiculous. Now it seems like people just kind of understand the DI flowcharts a little bit better against Dr. Mario, and that is going to go a long way. Obviously, still a terrible recovery, mediocre neutral, strong hitboxes, pretty good out of shield options without being up smash, but unfortunately he cannot really press anything. Pills aren't a good enough projectile, and he's just too slow. If this character was a little bit faster, same with Robin to be honest, if they were a little bit faster, like not a huge amount, but just a little bit faster, they would be so much better. But unfortunately, they're not, so they're bad. And the last character in 4.5 is going to be Donkey Kong. Two super heavies are taking the bottom 7 spots. You know, this character can box with you, has some intangible moves or disjointed moves, but somehow, even with all that and even with the damage output of this character, he's still mediocre. His recovery is really bad and super abusable. His disadvantage state is awful. And like, he's fast, and so he can kind of play the advantage on the ground, but I feel like so many characters above him have either good enough descending aerials to the point where you're going to have to either early contest with up air, and if you're wrong to get down, or they just kind of get away from you regardless, even with his speed on the ground. Like, I've seen so many DKs just lose advantage because they had to commit once in a certain area, missed, and then suddenly they're playing neutral again, which is again fairly lackluster for him in general. Yes, can he cheese some wins? For sure, but can he cheese sets? I don't know about that one. You know, if you learned your character's DK 0% like the up throw, up air, you know, with the platform stuff, like that's going to be really, really important for you, and if you know that, you get out of those ranges, suddenly you're going to be way less scared of grabs in general. This character honestly just starts killing at like 120, 130, and if you're a heavy killing at 120 or 130, that is not going to be good because you need to get those earlier kills, which basically every other heavy sans K rule can get. So next up is going to be 5.5. Yes, I know I skipped 5. I think there is a pretty significant gap between these bottom 7 and the rest of the characters. These bottom 7 are going to be the characters that I would label bad. Everything above this, they are pretty good characters. Obviously, the characters that I'm going to be mentioning right now aren't top tiers, they're not high tiers, but they're still very strong characters. You definitely need to know the matchup, because if you don't, you're going to die. And first off on that list is going to be Ganondorf, the epitome of you are going to die. Get F smashed at 40, get nared off stage at 30, you know, maybe depending on your recovery, get reverse up aired into back aired. This character is just so strong. Obviously has a fairly abusable recovery and a mediocre disadvantage state. He has a decent neutral, but again, he's so slow on the ground that he will get circle camped or platform camped by a decent amount of the high tiers and top tiers and even some of the mid tiers. You know, he can't really approach projectile super well, but when he gets in, oh my god, you take so much damage, and having to lose 3 neutral interactions at most against Ganon a stock is going to make sure this character is always a threat at any point in the game, unless you play Pikachu, because that matchup's 9-1. Next up is going to be Bowser Jr. I think this character is pretty decent. You know, up throw, up air confirms are going to be really good. The decent forward air and back air in neutral. He has the side B, which is always tricky if you don't understand how it's used. And you know, it can be used in a multitude of ways. So even though it's a gimmick, it's a deep gimmick. So we take those kind of, and Bowser Jr. can really run with that. You've had really good performances from Bowser Jr.'s. I don't remember what the name was at Albion. You saw last weekend that, so as of recording this, you know, there was a Bowser Jr., I think it's like Trash Koopa Kid or something, that beat Mr. Ree. So a decent amount of PGR placements and wins from this character. They cannot be ignored, in my opinion, even though obviously it's not a results-based tier list, but you know, hey, that's pretty good. You know, taking games off of people like MVD, you know, it's not a bad character. And again, like things like F smash being able to 2-frame, down smash being super strong, just decent edge guarding, hard to edge guard himself unless you have moves that have really low tumble or like really low knockback, so it doesn't put the Bowser Jr. into tumble if you hit them out of their uppy. That kind of sucks, but a decent amount of kill confirms. Again, we have the footstool stuff from Gimmer. I don't think that's really been optimized for Bowser Jr., but again, when the Bowser Jr. start parry footstool side B forward airing you, or parry footstool upping you and just killing you at really early percents or even later percents, consistent killing, you know, that's going to be a huge deal. So I do think this character can move up in the future, but for now, still not super great, but not bad at all. Jigglypuff, unfortunately for me, has slowly been going down in the tier list, but still a decent character. A lot of rest setups, Sing that covers a bunch of options, good edge guarding, decent aerial mobility, really good out of shield options in terms of nair and forward air. You know, parrying with this character is going to be so useful. One, because you keep your shield, because shield breaks are, you know, literally lethal as this character. You know, but really, I've seen a couple Jigglypuffs just optimize rest punishes with like crouch parries, and crouch parry rest is going to be so good. You know, out of shield full hop down air or out of shield double jump down air into weak fair rest. Character has a decent amount of stuff, but so many matchups just have more range or, aren't going to get edge guarded, or you can just keep Jigglypuff out in general, and that is going to be the main struggle of this character. Still in the 5.5 tier, but not going to be bad at all. Shoutouts to Canada Red from Oklahoma, he's godlike. Next up is going to be Corrin, a character that ironically gives the previous character Jigglypuff a decent amount of struggle. Has a lot of range in forward smash, nair, and up air. I feel like those are going to be the three main moves of this character, and still pin is going to be pretty decent. But overall, this character, even with the buffs that they received in the last patch, I feel like didn't make enough of a difference. I still feel like a very underwhelming sword character Corrin is, and that is not really going to change unless they get faster, or pin gets better, or something like that. Maybe Dragon Fang Shot is better because that move is still ass, not a really good projectile at all, but still can contend with characters. If you get that add a shield nair, you can then just keep people in the air forever and just keep that advantage state, and not exactly fast enough to keep it up for the most part for like long stocks, but stages like Battlefield or Yoshi's or even maybe Kalos, where you can just kind of play that, even like FD type stages, I guess, where you can kind of just play the I'm under you and you're gonna have to deal with it, and this stage is small, so let's fight, and then you can't fight because you can't get back to Corrin. That's the joke in the first place. Like, definitely not going to be an overwhelming character, but there are still a lot of gimmicks with this character. Pin being able to 2-frame, F smash being super good, and now actually comboing it into itself. Pretty decent, but overall not going to be super great. Bayonetta is also in this 5.5 tier because she still is inconsistent. Her hitboxes, even though they've been fixed a couple times, still don't work correctly, and she has, the biggest struggle of this character is the fact that she's not really able to kill Witch Time, going to not be super good. You have to hit with a pretty hard move in order to get a Witch Time that'll kill at less than like 90%, so that's going to be a real struggle for her. Her edge guarding is kind of okay, can only really edge guard characters with really linear or really abusable recoveries, which isn't going to be the majority of anything you're going to play in tournament. And again, I am basing this off of how you would do in a tournament, and this character unfortunately nowadays does not do well. Again, maybe there are some hidden combos that I am unaware of, maybe there are some setups that are better than I realize, which is definitely possible. It's hard to keep track of every character, every single meta, every single matchup, and things like that, but overall I do think this character is a struggle. Not going to be overwhelming, obviously, like the Smash 4 variant, but even just like what people thought of her at the beginning of the game, it is just slowly going down for Bayonetta. Heel slide not connecting into itself, SDI going to be a big difference on the combos in terms of up and down on Witch Twist and Afterburner Kick. Those are going to be huge. A lot of different knowledge checks that you have to know, but again, I feel like a lot of people still know the flowcharts from Smash 4, and those flowcharts still work against Bayonetta in Ultimate. And that's going to be it for the 5.5 ratings. Now for the number 6 ratings, we are going to start off with Isabelle. She got some pretty big buffs in the 4.0 patch, mainly going to be Jab, because now you have like an Edge Infinite, and also Jab is now a kill confirm with Jab F tilt, Jab down smash. That's going to be a really big deal. Up smash functioning better is really nice. This character is now absolutely frightening at the ledge. You get hit off stage and you finally avoid the side B, and then you neutral get up off ledge and then get jabbed forever and then into a down smash, and that's really unfortunate. It's not super easy, but again, a one button infinite, as we've seen with actual wobbling, is still not going to be that difficult, and it is really, really good. I don't know if you can SDI out of it. I don't have a lot of experience against Isabelle's in this current patch, but I know when I was doing it online, like I was doing it on Wi-Fi for a couple reps into down smash is so strong. It sends you at such a good angle, which then makes you be able to be edge guarded by this character. Her neutral still isn't the best. I know her down B got better. It will now actually proc on people that try to run through it, which is really nice. It helps a lot for being able to play passive. But if you don't have the lead as Isabelle, it is really hard to force anything because she doesn't really have a lot of aggressive buttons that are good. Her aerials aren't good aggressively. They're very unsafe. So if you can keep your opponents at a distance and kind of annoy them, that's fine. But if you ever lose the momentum, or you are now suddenly, down a stock, it is so hard for this character to come back, and that's going to be the biggest knock against her, which is why she isn't any higher. And again, just to reiterate, everyone in this rating of 6 tier can be relatively changed. Maybe some of the characters are slightly better, but that's not enough to put them in the 6.5 rating. But again, just as a reference, Isabelle isn't going to be worse than, let's say, even a character 6 people from now, like something like that. It is still going to be a relatively flowing kind of representation of where the characters are. And I'm going to show you the pictures at the end of the video, don't worry. But just in general, just keep that in mind. Diddy Kong is also going to be at this rating. Again, I do think this character is not not super great. My opinion hasn't really changed on him from when I had my own video about him. If you want to check that out, you know, I'm going to put a card right now, but overall this character still underwhelming as neutral. You know, maybe I understate some of the things, but again, I really just don't see it, and I don't see the matchups that'll be good for him in top tier. I really don't understand why people say this character does well versus Palutena. I don't see it. I don't understand. I really just don't think this character is super great. You know, fairly lackluster neutral overall. You know, Banana isn't going to be as good of a punish in general. I don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I know I made a video about him recently, but Piranha Plant is on the up and up. I thought he was one of the worst characters in the game. You know, this was also in part due to watching Brood. I finally understand the general game plan that this character has, and it is a pretty strong game plan. Not gonna be high tier or even like somewhere in the upper echelons of the game, but I do think this character is pretty strong now. Again, if you want to check out that video, I will also link a card right now just so you can get a more in-depth opinion, because that video is way longer than what I'm gonna talk about him here, but just really good ledge trapping, pretty solid killing, one of the best kill throws in the entire game. I think it's like third behind, you know, in terms of up throws, behind like Mewtwo's up throw and then, you know, Olimar's blue Pikmin up throw, and that's not too bad to be behind considering how strong those are, but just pretty decent aerials. You know, not the fastest character, still has a mediocre disadvantage state overall. Like, I don't feel like it's super great, but again, if you can catch them out with Patuis, or if you even like think you're gonna get hit, you mash Patui and then your opponent hits you out of it, that's gonna be a huge thing because it really makes people hesitate, and as a mental thing, that's really good. And again, mental advantages are going to be really important for tournament, which is something I value a lot, so Plant definitely gets the nod for that. If Sonic functioned better, he would be such a threat in this. If his up air was a little bit easier to connect both ways, if his side B and his down B you weren't just able to hold down and get out of it the majority of the time, then this character would have so many kill confirms, so many combos, but unfortunately those don't exist, so he has to hard bait you and hard call you out in neutral and just be able to get those advantage states and then forward smash 2-frame you, and if you miss any of those things, this character now is not threatening. He loses to a bunch of projectiles now that, you know, his side B isn't as invincible as it used to be. You know, Spring is in general, like, he's just not as good at running away. Dash shield is way worse. His initial dash in general is just not super good. And, you know, he doesn't really have those throw combos that he used to in Smash 4. So overall, again, this character is definitely a threat. We've seen a decent amount of runs from Sonic players. Obviously, Ken is amazing. Sunito is going to be the best one in the US, and he has done some crazy stuff beating Samsora. But overall, I do think this character struggles just a little bit because of the inconsistency of forward tilt and down B and up air. If those worked, they would be so much better for him. He would be a crazy threat in this game, but unfortunately they're not. That's the way it is. So 6 out of 10, not bad, but could be so much more if they just fixed him. But I'm definitely not on that hashtag fix Sonic because I don't like the general play of that character, so I will take the fact that he doesn't function correctly. Zelda is going to be a huge gimmick in my opinion, but there are so many layers to this gimmick that it is still really good, and then you finally get in through the 3, you know, neutral Bs and then the 3 down Bs, and then suddenly you get out of shield up beat and die at 75. This character has so many layers to the frustration that you feel when playing them, whether it's forward smash, whether it's neutral B, whether it's down B, obviously lightning kick out of shield, landing down air into lightning kick. There are a decent amount of confirms into lightning kick or up air. This character has so many things that are kind of aggravating. I don't think the options are necessarily inherently super strong or super good, but Zelda has so many options to choose from that are all, again, fairly gimmicky. Like, if you understand Phantom, this character is mediocre at best, but there's 11 levels of it. It constantly changes. You know, each Zelda has their own habits of what they want to go for, so it's so hard to pin the Zelda down and figure out what they want to do, and so because of that, still going to be a 6, really scary tournament threat because 2 games, a lot of the times, like in pools, is really difficult to figure out this character. Like, I know I literally dropped a game to win a DreamHack Montreal, and then I figured out, you know, how they did their patterns, and then 2 and 3 stalked him, but again, if I was slightly slower to adapt, or if Pikachu, you know, won that matchup by a little less, that is going to be way more problematic, and there are a decent amount of characters, even in high and top tier, that can struggle with this character, not necessarily lose, but don't win easily, and if you can outsmart or out-gimmick an opponent in high and top tier, you can still take those sets, and that is going to be big for Zelda. Pit is probably the most honest character in the entire game. Even though I hate the phrase honest, he just has nothing special about him. He has pretty decent combos, pretty decent speed, pretty decent edgeguard, and pretty decent recovery, pretty decent killing, and that's going to give you a 6 in my book because he doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses. He just gets outshined a lot of the times by the characters above him, or even one character that has a really good one type of aspect, like really good camping or really good edgeguarding. That's going to be more valuable than Pit being good at everything but not great at everything. Granted, he's still playable in a tournament setting like Pit and Dark Pit, I'm kind of clumping them into one right here because they're basically the same, and it's really just matchup dependent or also stage dependent, but they're basically the same character, but they're still very solid, so they are a decent pick because you're not going to get blown out of the water by a lot of characters. Like, I feel like Pit doesn't have a matchup worse than 6'4", but at the same time, he probably doesn't have a matchup better for him than 55-45, you know, in his favor. So overall, just going to be a pretty mediocre character, but again, in this game, mediocre is still really good and really scary. Incineroar is going to be a slow, scary, adorable big cat. I was gonna say little cat, but that wouldn't be accurate. But Incineroar, I feel like slightly too slow to be super good, but when he gets his paws on you, man, you take so much damage. His killing is ridiculous. The threat of revenge is always there, so he can just mash out a frame 3 counter and just be way stronger. That also in the air can combo into back air, which I've learned and I've got hit by against Magister. This character does struggle with a decent amount of the top tiers. He can be edge guarded, but there are a decent amount of edge guarding, or rather recovery mix-ups, to the point where if you don't have amazing edge guarding like Pika or Palu, or maybe like Snake's Nikita, it can be a struggle sometime to edge guard him. But you know, losing those stocks in tournament is really unfortunate. But again, that fear factor that he has, that I'm getting close to you, I have revenge, you're at 45, you might die, that's going to be pretty valuable in tournament. So honestly, for that little burst factor, that's why he's in 6. I think maybe you know, in friendlies he's a little bit worse because you're going to be less scared of that because each game is less important. But in tournament, every stock, every game is important, and Incineroar can definitely get those very early, whether it's with back air, whether it's with forward smash tipper, whether it's with revenge, anything, whether it's with juggles. Like, his up air is actually amazing. He has a pretty good advantage state considering how slow he is, but he can get outsped by a lot of the characters above him, and for that reason, I will put him at a 6. I feel like the gimmick of Mii Sword Fighter has been figured out. I feel like everyone kind of understands the slow side B and the tornado and how they work, and unfortunately that is going to be a big deal in terms of Mii Sword Fighter's gameplay, and that is no longer going to be as easily hit. Obviously, sometimes he's still going to time the tornado on the neutral get up into up B at 65 or into the up air at 95. Still decent options, but I feel like this character is slowly getting figured out, and overall is going to just be going down on tier lists in general. Just a bigger gimmick. Still, you know, sword characters still can wall out characters that are really slow, like ironically Incineroar, or maybe even Kirby, or maybe even Puff, but unfortunately a couple decent matchups in the mid or low tier are not going to make this character that good. Still again a 6, because a lot of damage this character does, some knockdown setups, forward smash still going to be really strong. Again, the projectiles are pretty decent if you aren't good at dealing with them as like characters, not necessarily players, but overall just I think this character is getting figured out, and unfortunate, I think this character is going to go down as time progresses. King Day-to-Day is going to be a character that I feel like is just slightly too slow and slightly too big for him to really get out of a lot of the things he needs to. His disadvantage is so bad because his air mobility is one of the worst, I think, or the worst in the game. It's abysmal, so even with multiple jumps, it's still very obvious where this character wants to go to land. You know, back air is pretty safe, but if you're able to kind of be under him, or be under him and in front of him, and constantly be mixing that up when he jumps and turns around, it is going to be really difficult for this character to get down at all. You know, Gordo is better than it was in Smash 4, but it's still not a great move. I think now needing 2% on a move to send it back, which basically every character has in a really fast move that is disjointed or even like can just avoid them. It's just so hard for this character to get anything started. You know, the edge trapping of this character is easily the shining star, one of the best edge trapping in my opinion of the entire game. Gordo down smash, Gordo forward smash, Gordo even down B to read the ledge jumps and things like that, or just landing. This character can sometimes be difficult to land against because of how big up air is. If you need to do like a landing aerial or like a landing special move, or if you have like a stall and fall move, that up air will definitely beat it out, and up throw up air can be like pretty ambiguous with DI. You know, good combo can potentially kill 50-50, or you know, waste your jump, and then now Day-to-Day is, you know, juggling you when you don't have a jump, and that can be pretty scary. But I feel like overall this character just gets bullied more than he will bully most characters, unless you get caught in the Gordo vortex, which only a few characters will get caught in, ironically one of them being Peach, who's clearly a very good character. But overall I just think this character struggles a little bit too much to be higher than this. Again, as I mentioned a couple times, still pretty good. A 6 is a pretty good character, but not going to be any higher than this. The Belmonts are slightly too inconsistent for me to put them higher. Their peaks, amazing. We saw what Riddles can do. We saw what a couple other Belmonts can do, but mostly Riddles. He's kind of the one that sauced a lot of people. But even with how good Riddles has done with this character, he still decided to drop him in favor of better characters. If you can deal with projectiles, if you're a character that has a reflector or has like an absorb, like, let's say like Rosalina's. Unfortunately, this character just crumbles a lot. The aerials are pretty good, but the disadvantage of this character is so lackluster. The recovery of the Belmonts is just so abusable and so unfortunate if you know how to deal with tether recoveries, which a lot more people are figuring out. Now this character has way less mix-up because Uppy from far out will not grab the ledge, so if you put your hitboxes in order of where like the Belmonts have to do their forward airs and up airs and things to tether the ledge, they're going to die, and that is really unfortunate. A bit too inconsistent for tournament play in my opinion because of how abusable that recovery is. Just you can be playing super well and then get hit at 10 and then get hit out, and then you have to try to 50-50 your double jump or fast fall, then they guess right and then you just die, and that's super unfortunate. So a little bit too inconsistent for me to put this character any higher, but still a threat. Definitely, again, pretty decent matchups in the high tier, maybe even a couple top tier matchups aren't that bad, but I feel like some of the matchups this character have are so hard to the point where if you run into them, you're just going to cry in tournament and have to play a secondary. And I'm not even talking like top tiers or high tiers, I'm talking about a couple mid tiers that will just body this character, unfortunately. So a 6 it is. Lukas is literally one buff away from being a high tier character, which is the fact that this character has no grab combo, so shield just beats this character. Spacing fair is safe on shield, oh big deal, it doesn't matter because this grabs are so lackluster to the point where you're not really going to get a lot off of it. Lukas's advantage state isn't going to be the strongest, so a forward throw isn't going to be the biggest deal unless you're getting like thrown off stage at like 90 or so, but at lower percents, just taking the grab is so much smarter against Lukas. This character definitely does struggle. The buffs were pretty nice, PK Fire getting a little bit less landing lag, the F tilt being better is going to be a big deal. I know I talked to Choco Taco, the South Florida, Lukas about that. I'm going to link his Twitter down below just because I like him. I want to give him the shout out. Shout outs to South Florida in general, you're dope. But Lukas just, I feel like struggles a little bit too much. The best thing about this character is going to be the ability to two frame and edge guard between PK Fire for edge guarding and forward air and even back air, and then you have down smash and PK freeze in 2 frames, and those kill you mad early. So again, a little bit of cheese, which is always good because cheese is amazing in ultimate when there's so much solid play in this game. If you're able to get a stock at 50 to 70, that's going to be a huge deal. Lukas can do that, but again, the threat of his everything being whittled down to just shield is going to be a big deal. He doesn't even get like tech chase setups off of it, so it's not like a zero suit situation where you're gonna take the grab, but then the grab leads to a tech chase, which then you get nair back aired or nair flip kicked or whatever against zero suit. Lukas doesn't have access to that, so it's just you took 12 and lost stage position, which again isn't going to be that big of a deal for Lukas because his hitboxes aren't big enough to pressure people into specific spots or just be able to cover a large area. So unfortunately this character is still going to be a 6. Again, a big threat. I feel like you do have to know this matchup, and if you don't, you might get steamrolled. Again, a couple PK freezes, a down smash, maybe up smash invincibility, but overall I do think this character is still just okay. I know I've been mentioning cheese a lot in this video, but Lucario is going to be the epitome of cheese. With aura and rage, that stacking on each other is going to be a huge deal. Honestly, I thought this character was a bit better, even a couple weeks ago, but then someone showed me the fact that when you're charging Aura Sphere, and it's like that huge giant ball when you have aura, and then you shield, it gets way smaller, and I didn't actually notice that before, so that really alleviates a lot of the pressure that Lucario gives off. Obviously, he still kills you really early, still has one of the best counters in the game, still has obviously a bunch of the really good things that he has. He has pretty decent grab combos. When he has aura, he's one of the best characters in the game, but I feel like enough characters can kind of run away from him or just kind of play the poking game and really even just like camp him if they take an early stock. This character can't really catch up from leads unless, if you're really dedicated to just running away and not giving this character aura, you take a stock and then you deal him 20 and then you just run the whole time, and that is definitely a problem for Lucario. Obviously, a lot of people don't do that because people don't shamelessly play for timeout, thankfully, because I like where the meta is in Ultimate right now, and if people did that, it would kind of be unfortunate, but Lucario is definitely one of those characters that you should do it against, because when this character gets going, again, it is so scary. You die at 40 to a back air, or they, shimmy you and F smash you and you die at 50, and that's crazy, like such early percents, but unfortunately, a lot of other characters above them, above this character, or just in general in high top tier, even high mid tier, you die really early before you can get the utilization of full aura, and without that, Lucario is going to struggle just a bit. So again, a 6 ranking. Just for reference, this is definitely the biggest tier of any of the tiers because I feel like this is just like the defining factor of like characters above this are like, whoa, they're really scary. So, you know, Lucario's still going to be pretty good at a 6, but again, not going to be a huge tournament threat. But again, you still have to know the matchup. There are so many matchups in this game you have to know. Why do I play this game? Rosalina is someone I spoke highly of in my previous tier list, you know, saying, oh, she's probably going to go on the up and up, but I feel like this character, again, is too difficult for the amount of reward that she gets. It's not even like she's crazy difficult, but then is like amazing at top level. It's like, oh, she's pretty good and is a decent counterpick for some characters, but that's not going to be a big enough deal, in my opinion, to put her higher than a 6. I just feel like, again, her attack cancel stuff is cool, but it's not that easy to consistently do and consistently space with. You know, enough characters in the meta-relevant characters can just kill Luma super easily or edgeguard her super easily because she doesn't have a great recovery and she doesn't have amazing combo. She just kind of has 1 and 2 in a decent advantage state. But if you want a character with a decent advantage state, you can play anyone in the top 25 basically, and they have better neutral and better recoveries more than likely than Rosalina. So unfortunately, just kind of too hard for the value that she gets. So that's going to put her at a 6 for me. And another character that's a bit too difficult for the reward they get is going to be Marth. Yes, Marth and Lucina are this far apart. I know I said they're like 40 characters apart even though you haven't been to Lucina yet. I get it, I understand, but trust me, this character is not that good because if you miss your kills in this game, it can just snowball so hard. This game is so snowbally. You miss one thing and then you get hit a single time and you're in disadvantage, and Marth's disadvantage isn't that good in the first place, so you can just rack up the damage or get a kill because you should have got a kill with a tipper at 80 and now that your opponent is at 150 and they won't die to anything because you can't hit a tipper. That is so unfortunate. The amount of effort that it takes to get your tippers in this game is way too high. There are not super easy setups except for the Dancing Blade setup, but again, that's one move that is punishable and you have to do a really specific thing at a specific percent window, so it's not going to be as easy as it seems, unfortunately. So I just think this character is not worth the effort. Literally just play Lucina. Or even play Pit, because at least Pit's consistent, and they're both a 6, so like, whatever. So now we have the 6.5 ratings. This is just slightly better than the 6 rating, and at this point we have fairly small tiers. Every single tier, I think, is going to be, I think, 9 characters, 8 characters or less, so it's going to be a little bit quicker, and we're going to start off with Villager. I think Villager has a lot of strong tools. You've seen Kept have amazing runs, but I feel like this character just gets gate-kept by a couple of really popular top tiers, mostly going to be Snake, Joker, Shulk, and Palutena. I think those characters all do incredibly well versus Villager, and in a meta, at least in a North American meta, that is going to be a lot of the top players just either having pockets or having, you know, maining that character, and it's so difficult for Villager to get past them. But again, the threat of Bowling Ball, the threat of Barry, I know Up Smash got buffed in 5.0 that it actually works better. You have a lot of options for this character. It's really difficult to get in against this character, but as I mentioned with Isabelle, because obviously they have similar aerials and similar toolkits in that regard if they're camping, the aggressive options of this character are fairly lackluster. Jab is still worse than it used to be in Smash 4 since it's not a kill confirm, and there's just a bunch of little things that Villagers can't force the issue as much. However, his edge guarding is actually stellar, so if your character doesn't have a really good recovery, or a really, I guess, tricky recovery, even if it doesn't go that far, Villager is going to be able to abuse that and just get you off stage, drop a bowling ball, maybe get a couple nairs, fairs, down throw does combo and stuff. He does have a kill throw and back throw, but I feel like it's not quite enough to be any higher than this. Still, again, I mean, Kept almost beat Nairo, got I think what, 17th or 25th at EVO, also got like 17th or 13th at SmashCon, and that's like crazy for 2 back-to-back S tiers doing so well for a character I consider like at the lower end of mid tier. I don't know, this character has a decent amount of options, so I'm pretty happy that they're getting representation, especially after Renai's not able to play. But either way, not the greatest character, but again, pretty solid. Even though Sans is a new character in 5.0 just released, I feel like a lot of people have a really solid understanding of how to play this character. A lot of ledge traps with the bomb, a decent charge shot. Obviously being able to customize Sans is kind of nice. You're able to have a lot of decent specials, but I have seen a lot of people using the charge shot and the missiles to keep people away. You know, Sans plays a really irritating playstyle. It's kind of canon to his game, and I feel like it's just a really interesting strategy. Again, I really wish this character was a bit faster in the air. I feel like that would make a lot better. Up throw would then be a better kill confirm. You'd get a lot of more pressure in terms of like what you'd be able to chase your opponent with, but unfortunately not really able to do that. Gonna have to get slow kind of pressure and maybe like landing traps with forward smash. You know, the fact that it's so lingering, it goes in front. Obviously you have amazing edge guarding and edge trapping because of bomb, although you can smack it back, which is, you know, very similar to Mii Gunners, but you know, Sans obviously going to be a little bit better because he's bald and that's really important. You know, depending on if you want a good up you add a shield, or, you know, distance you can pick depending on whatever up you want. I think everyone basically uses charge shot, so that one's going to be standard. Flame Pillar is going to be really good to confirm into charge shot or other moves like forward air and even back air sometimes if you're close enough, so that's kind of nice. Decent kill confirms, but not going to be strong enough. Like, you know, I feel like Sans has a huge wave of popularity. I feel like more people are playing Sans than even like Banjo, who's the other new character who I'll get to a bit later. But honestly, just pretty solid options, but just seems to be already figured out. A lot of people are getting hit by the gimmicks of Sans, which is kind of unfortunate because Sans, you know, big gimmick character, wants to be able to cheese his opponents, but not really going to be able to. So I'm going to stay in with the 6.5, still very solid, pretty aggravating to like kind of get into, but if you understand what you're supposed to do to like edgeguard the character and exactly how the missiles interact and how they're different than Samus's, you're not going to have a bad time. Meta Knight is one of those characters that I think is amazing, and it is honestly a product of holy crap, there are so many good characters in this game, because this is still obviously the lower half of the game, and yet Meta Knight is such a strong character and is still down here. He still has amazing confirms, he does a bunch of damage, his edge guarding is amazing, he has one of the best down tilts in the entire game, although it isn't super big. He has cheese with Tornado and cheese with F tilt on like a Town and City and Kalos platforms. Certain matchups he still gets ladder combos for like death, which is crazy. He has the side ladder combos with just get you off the stage and you tornado, and like it's so crazy how I think this character is amazing, and I, you know, speak so highly of this character, and yet he's still a 6.5 just because there are so many amazing characters. And again, a 6.5 out of 10, pretty good, you know, failing in terms of college, but in terms of overall rating, like I'm fine to continually eat 6.5 food personally. You know, I got low standards, I guess, but Meta Knight is such a good character, such a solid character, you know, a great disadvantage because of his jumps and his fast fall, and down air can kind of stall and you can kind of not really approach him in the air super well, and then he does fast fall air dodges, F tilts, or like down smash is so fast. Like this character has so many tools available to him, but just there isn't even like that many bad things about him, except I guess sometimes if you don't get the ladders and you can't get your edge guards, or the character's like hard to edge guard, then sometimes you can kind of struggle to get kills and things like that. But then you have your really safe F smash, and it's crazy because he's so good, but he's still all the way down here just because there are so many characters that are amazing. And again, similar to Meta Knight, Mewtwo is going to be one of those characters that have such a good toolkit. You know, the tail got a little bit buffed in the last patch, just because it's going to be slightly harder to hit, and I think they got rid of the hurt box on certain moves, so down tilt is a bit better now. But again, this character is so fast, amazing offense, has guaranteed kills, has one of the best, or two of the best kill throws actually in the entire game. Down smash is so fast now and so strong, up smash is stronger and bigger. This character has so many tools, but again, compared to the high tiers and the top tiers and even the upper mid tiers of this game, he's not obnoxious enough, he's not overpowered enough, he's not just crazy enough to be up in that echelon. But again, so many good tools. I feel like if I run into a Mewtwo in tournament, I'm not like, oh, this is easy, or like, oh, this is free. It's like, oh, this is scary. And depending on how good they are and how like well I'm reacting to things, this character can do so many good things, so many just like amazing pressure situations and just mix-ups and all that type of thing. But again, there are just so many strong characters above Mewtwo that it's crazy that he's down here, like actually insane. I think this character is one of the most slept on characters in the entire game because speed is really valuable right now, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go up. But speed is a huge attribute. Being able to have a large unreactable zone is so invaluable when it comes to Smash, especially now that Ultimate is kind of figuring out its place and like kind of the meta is being a little bit more solidified. Speed is so important, and Mewtwo has that in spades. One of the best dashes in the entire game, a really good dash attack, good down tilt, good projectile. This character has it all. Obviously he's a little bit light, a big frame, so you're gonna get comboed a little bit harder than your lighter or than your light and floaty counterparts like Jigglypuff and Kirby and things like that. But so he's gonna take a little bit more damage and still die relatively early, but at the same time want a better recovery than most of them, not really that easy to hit. Obviously he doesn't have multiple air dodges, which was a big thing for him in Smash 4, but still a pretty good character. You know, I'm a fan of him. You know, I think he's a fairly scary character, has decent matchups in the top tier, but still going to be at a 6.5. And speaking of scary characters, we have one of the scariest characters in the entire game, and that is going to be Luigi. Yes, I know I put him really low on my last tier list, and I still agree with most of the things that I said, but my criteria of making a tier list is a bit different because Luigi, even though he's inconsistent because of his, you know, recovery, Elegant has proven that there is a lot of times when you're just not going to edgeguard this character, even with good edgeguarding characters. Like I lost to him at Evo, you know, I missed a lot of edgeguards, down Bs, and really valuable mix-up for him, and just obviously the fact that you can get 0 to death or 0 to 60 or or 0 to 80 off a grab or a Zair. You know, that's going to be really good from a mindset perspective because the Luigis always know they can come back, and then the opponents of the Luigi always know that they might, you know, be susceptible to a comeback, and that is going to be really, really bad for your mindset because you're going to always be on edge. You're not going to be calm even if you have a huge lead because Luigi can just make it disappear in an instant, and that is really good for him. Obviously, he still has a bunch of his flaws. I think his disadvantage is still fairly mediocre. You know, he can punish everything on shield. If you know, get Cyclone and just hold shield, you can get a huge punish. His recovery is fairly lackluster if you are able to get there and just interrupt that side B or kind of put your hitbox in front of where his up B is. A big thing is being patient because his getting off the ledge isn't that fast, so you should be more patient with like, okay, I'm gonna wait for him to like jump air dodge and then I can punish the air dodge, and if he goes for an instant jump up B, then you kind of like be patient on the ledge, edge trap him as opposed to just trying to immediately get the edge guard, because losing position against Luigi sucks because his edge trapping is actually really good with dash attack, F tilt, down tilt, Zair. You know, it's all really difficult. Obviously, up B out of shield if he gets a grab at the ledge, down throw, upper back air, down throw, up B is a 50-50. That just works at like 60 to 70 depending on the character, which will just kill, so that's kind of crazy. But still, I do think his susceptibility, like he's really scary to like be on the receiving end of like a comeback, but also there are times when I'm down against a Luigi and I'll just be like, oh, I can still win this game because I can just hit him off stage and kill him, and that definitely does happen. So the inconsistency is kind of both ways, which is pretty decent for a tournament character. And I mean, again, we've seen Elegant have pretty good tournament results. You know, not like super stellar, like definitely, I wouldn't say like top 15 player, but definitely in PGR for sure. And that is proof that Luigi can do it even if he is quote unquote inconsistent. So, you know, he's still pretty good. 6.5, you know, I almost put him at a 7, but not quite. Cloud is a character that has steadily gone down and down in my opinion, and with Spargo questioning if he wants to play the character, Cheeks, one of the best US Clouds, not playing the character anymore. Now a big part of our representation of this character is gone. I know Salt1 from Georgia still plays him, but he also is a Roy main Cloud secondary, so secondary, it's not exactly going to be a good character in my opinion. This character struggles a lot with the edge guarding inconsistency that I just talked about with Luigi, but doesn't have any of the crazy like comeback factors to really make it scary to play against him, except the fact that his neutral is just overall better because he's really fast, obviously has a sword, has a really good up air and juggle situation. His advantage state is pretty strong, but it's just not going to be strong enough to contend with the people above him. For the most part, I mean, he can, I guess, contend, but he's not going to be a threat. He's not consistently being a threat like the characters above him. His, you know, up B out of shield is a good option, but it's not as good of an up B as several others. You know, his spacing is pretty good, but it's not as good as some others. His combos basically don't exist. You kind of have to read air dodges and kind of play an advantage game as opposed to a true combo game, which again, a lot of characters above hit you at 0 and you go to 50, and Cloud hits you at 0 and you go to 12 sometimes, like, oh, down throw, that sucks. That's like the whole combo. You know, his grab is one of the worst in the game. I think it's frame 9 for a standing grab, which is awful. Like, I think the worst standing grab other than like Zelda's, who's like special and it's bigger. I think the same with Greninja, but like that's crazy bad. So I just think Cloud, you know, has a lot of struggle matchups in the top tier. You can run away from him, so you can be patient, and a lot of the top tiers are good at either being patient or running at your face, and Cloud kind of struggles to deal with both of them. So I think overall most of the characters you're going to find in tournament do very well versus Cloud, and for that reason, and obviously the inconsistency factor of the edge guarding, or rather the recovery, I'm going to put Cloud at a 6.5. Ridley got several buffs, and I think the 4.0 patch is what it was to make him a bit more of a complete character, but I still don't think he's like absolutely amazing. He's not an amazing zoner, he's not amazing rushdown. You know, he's still big and bulky and not that heavy compared to his size, so he is going to take a lot of damage from combos and still be kill confirmed for large ranges because of the fact that he's not heavy and he's not fast volley. Like, I know he has the biggest up throw up air window in Inkling. It's like 42 or 43%, which is abnormally large. You know, I know a lot of characters combo him really hard due to his stature. I think like Palutena has like an infinite on him. I know Joker obviously can do the drag down uppers on him on platform easily because of how wide he is. It's so unfortunate to be Ridley sometimes, but also, did you see Joker's Ridley at Switchfest? That was mad nice. It was mad clean. If he gets the momentum, it's really scary. Obviously, his command grab is a burst option that beats shield, which is obviously really nice. You know, pretty decent recovery, hard to mess with, really disjointed, but at the same time, if you can hit him before the up B comes out, suddenly he's just not going to get that far because of the awkwardness of his angles. Please let Ridley do just 8 directions. I would play Ridley if they let him recover in 8 directions that were like the standard 8. You don't even need all the fancy ones that I know because I play Pika. Just give me the 8 and that's going to be fine. That would honestly put Ridley at like a 7.5 to me, but unfortunately doesn't have that. Not quite good enough to be higher than this. 6.5, again, still very good. I think this character is quite solid, but just not going to be a consistent tournament threat as opposed to a sometimes tournament threat, which is what I feel like this tier kind of is. Falco is going to be the second best 2-button character of the entire game. His up tilt is so good. His up tilt is better than the bottom 10 in the game, and then he has a couple other moves and a decent recovery. He has edge guards, he has spikes, he has many multi-hits with drag downs. Obviously up tilt combos for forever. Grab has combos, although they stop functioning in higher percents, but up tilt back air, up tilt up air, up air, up tilt up air. Just his juggle and advantage game is absolutely ridiculous. He is so strong in advantage, but unfortunately he's a little too slow to constantly get them. He's going to have to rely on people jumping as opposed to staying on the ground. Laser kind of mitigates the fact that you know, people want to stay on the ground because it's kind of annoying if you want to stay on the ground and he starts shooting lasers, but each laser does like 2%, so it's really not that big of a deal. Kind of just take them or like walk and shield to get closer to Falco, and then kind of have those unreactable burst options, which Falco doesn't really have because he's slow and his dash attack is kind of mediocre. So he's gonna, again, mostly just be going for like F tilts, or you know, just keep you away, or just up tilt because of the big combo damage, obviously. But up tilt, god, that move is so good. I remember playing Larry, and you know, I got up tilted for 2 games, and I like got double 2-stocked or something at the Goodwill Invitational. But that move is really make or break. If characters can get around up tilt, that is immediately a hard matchup. Like characters that can just kind of play on the ground, better spacing game than Falco, that is going to be so difficult for him. Or characters with aerials that are so fast that it's going to be really hard to bait with up tilt, or rather punish with up tilt, or both, whatever. You know, those are going to be the characters that Falco struggles with a bit, but he has so much potential because if he gets that hit, you just get taken for a ride, and it is not fun to get taken for a ride against Falco because up tilt back air kills you with like 85 at the ledge. Maybe not even the ledge, like sometimes center stage if you're a light character. And speaking of getting taken for a ride, that is the epitome of the Ice Climbers, who's going to close out the 6.5 rating. I think Ice Climbers, honestly, very good character. I think they are, you know, very slept on. I see a lot of potential in them. Obviously, they're kind of like Rosalina, where they're so difficult to the point where like some of the stuff that they have, even if it's really cool and guaranteed, is almost inapplicable in a tournament setting, at least as of now. You know, they have so many setups, it's so layered. Nana Trump got patched back in at 5.0. They have 0 to deaths with grabs, and they have crazy confirms off of side Bs and up tilts and random desyncs and edge trapping. And this character just has a lot of options, but again, one thing that a lot of people do, I mentioned this with Lucario, can just be, oh, I'm gonna go kill Nana and then camp Popo, and Popo can't really do as much. You know, Popo would definitely be in like by himself, maybe in the 4.5, maybe in between 4.5 and 5.5. Definitely not a great character, but you know, if you run away from him, then Popo eventually has to do something. But then if you take 2 or 3 minutes to kill, you know, or like Popo is trying to run at you for 2 minutes, and then you kill him, and then you're playing the one-on-one again. Now if you kill the Nana again, that's basically going to be timeout, and that is such an important thing to keep in mind against Ice Climbers, is just to run away from Popo and make him be the one to approach, because it is so difficult for him. Similar to a couple other characters I mentioned, it's really difficult for him to force the approach, even if like back air is pretty safe and forward is pretty safe. The ground moves for Ice Climbers are fairly lackluster when there's not both of them. You know, watch out for Blizzard, watch out for side B. Those are going to be the staples of that character in general. Both Popo and, you know, both Climbers, they just deal so much. Their damage output is ridiculous. I love Ice Climbers as a character. I actually just released a video on them fairly recently, so I'm going to put that in the card, and I will go on to the ranking of 7. And the first character I'm going to talk about in the 7 rating is going to be Duck Hunt. This character has so many setups and is so consistent due to the fact of how good side B is. Side B back air, side B up air, going to be invaluable kill confirms, because honestly, if you don't get the side B into back air or up air, this character then struggles very hard to kill, given the fact that basically only the smash attacks are kill moves other than those 2 moves. But again, the versatility of can and down B and side B are going to make this character very hard to hit, so that even if you're not getting those early kills, you can still frustrate your opponent to the point where they're going to run in, get hit by stupid things, or maybe get like grab, back thrown, and then set up an edge trap, because this character's edge trapping is actually phenomenal. And again, you're not really going to be killing because of it unless you get like an F throw or an up throw to can, which is not going to happen super often. But this character deals so much damage, can control so much momentum, and unless you get one of those like couple matchups that are like really hard for him, such as like Palutena or maybe like Snake, this character can do so well. Really good against the floaties, really good against the heavies, really good against people that can't approach this character. Honestly, I was very close to putting Duck Hunt in my 7.5. I think he was like my highest rank 7 or rating of 7 character, but he's just so good. Really difficult to play though, really difficult to pilot. I know there's a couple of the US Duck Hunts. We have Ozone and Wisdom that are doing very well. Obviously, Raito, an amazing player, and he's had several good showings both in American and Japanese tournaments, but this character is honestly so hard, and if things go slightly wrong, I feel like it can spiral pretty hard because he has a mediocre disadvantage if you pay enough attention to Can, and also his recovery is still susceptible because of the fact that he has no hitbox during his up B. Even if he can do his aerials out of it, for the most part you're going to do an aerial and then go into free fall, and that's not going to be worth it because you will die. And if a Can can't protect you, if a person can avoid the Can when they're edge guarding you, that is going to be a lot of game overs and a lot of stock losses for Duck Hunt, which are really important because, again, Duck Hunt, one of those characters, kind of hard to get stock leads because of the fact that it's hard to kill. So if the person just then avoids back air and avoids side B, you're going to be getting those late kills, probably traded for 40 to 70%, and then maybe get the stock, maybe because of his struggle to kill. So Duck Hunt, honestly, if he could kill just a little bit better, if his up throw or back throw killed like 20% earlier, he would be so much better. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So he's going to be a rating of 7. Again, very strong characters. I think the characters in 7 are like the whoa, these characters get like really, they start being like really good and very, very much so a tournament threat. And we've seen those before. You know, maybe Luigi should be here, but like whatever. I think Luigi's still susceptible and a lot of people are just playing bad. But Duck Hunt is so scary and he's so versatile that he definitely belongs here. Wii Fit Trainer is one of the characters I made a video about somewhat recently, and a lot of the points that I said in that video ring true, so I'll link to it up above. But Wii Fit Trainer, honestly, you know, the only reason just slightly lower is just because I feel like some characters have got buffed past him, or just slightly opinions have changed of certain characters. But Wii Fit does so much damage, is able to both play passive and aggressive, although aggressive is kind of hard. You need a bunch of setups or like conditioning with volleyball and neutral B Sun Salutation. Deep breathing is still amazing. You have crazy kill potential with dash attack, back air, side B, up air in deep breathing. Even like you have a kill throw in deep breathing in terms of, I think it's up throw. So that's kind of crazy. And this character is just so slept on in my opinion. The only problem with this character is sometimes you get edge guarded pretty hard, but it's kind of difficult to do that given the fact that side B is a constant, you know, momentum shift. And also if you're wrong, you just get spiked at really early percents and you die. You know, up B's not the best in terms of its hitbox because it's only on the side. And also Wii Fit Trainer does struggle with low profiling, and a lot of the top tiers do. So Wii Fit Trainer may do well versus like the high tiers and the other mid tiers, but I feel like struggles against a decent amount of the top tiers. But also Wii Fit Trainer be making moves in tournament. I know beating MVD, beating Raito, beating a couple other characters. Obviously Wadi still, I think he still plays Wii Fit, one of the best Wii Fits in the world. You have a couple other obviously dedicated Wii Fits that are amazing at this game, and they have such good results, or at least, you know, for like a mid tier, right? Like it's so hard because there are just so many good characters and matchups that, you know, you run into one you're unfamiliar of and suddenly you lose, and Wii Fit can definitely be one of those, and also susceptible because you don't exactly know how those interactions work because of the low profiling and the spacing and the hitting back the volleyball and all those type of things can be fairly difficult for Wii Fit to master, both, you know, on the dealing end and on the receiving end. So a pretty complex character, kind of more than meets the eye, but not going to be as hard as like Ice Climbers or Rosalina or anything like that, but still pretty solid. You know, one of those characters that can play defensive and offensive, as I mentioned, and this character, getting hit by this character is so scary, but not going to be scary enough to be high tier, but still a solid 7. Captain Falcon, I still love him after his buffs, but I have seen a slight decline on the opinions that Falcons have about Falcon. Maybe that's just fatality, but I see him be a little bit more pessimistic. I know him and Nixie are obviously going to be the main pioneering Falcons of Smash Ultimate. I love watching them. Obviously, one of the more hype characters in the game, have crazy combos. You see Mars's game versus Leo at a CEO with the crazy Falcon Kick Ender. But again, combos that do a crazy amount of damage with Nairs and up airs and Raptor Boost starters and grab, and he has a kill throw. He has pretty good edge guarding, confirms on 50-50s into knee and spikes, and this character is just so good. But again, sometimes this character, because of the fall speed and weight, gets comboed from 0 to like 100 or 0 to stake, and that's an old Brawl reference, and if you get it, give me a thumbs up in the comments. It's just, this character can sometimes struggle to get at a disadvantage because he's a fast faller without really good hitboxes and without super safe aerials. At least when you're coming down with them, it's a little bit harder to get like those landing back airs that are safe and that landing, you know, down air that's safe, although I don't think that's like ever safe. But just you kind of get my point, because you're going to have to do it a little bit higher to swat out the air-to-air attempt, and Falcon just really isn't able to do that effectively, unfortunately, and doesn't have another option to get at a disadvantage. And also, obviously, the ever, you know, present threat of rock crocking if you're trying to recover, and just edge guarding in general is really easy against Falcon, and that's going to be a huge downfall given the fact of how important offstage play, like between edge guarding and edge trapping, just this game is a lot about that, even as it's developed. jumping, and Falcon struggles in both of those regards and isn't amazing at edge guarding or edge trapping in my opinion, so kind of struggles in that regard, so a big lacking hole, and obviously again kind of similar to Wii Fit, struggles with low profiling, and so that's going to be kind of difficult for him, you know, all that among him. So I understand why he goes a little lower, but also he's still so explosive to the point where you have to scare him, or you have to be scared of him, so a solid 7 is what I would give him. One of the most interesting characters in the game, Link, is also going to be a 7. You know, I know that he has like those infinite combos with like the Z-drop bomb into like forward air and Z-drop bomb back air, but until I see that a bit more consistently, I'm not really going to consider that in this video or like in my rankings, because I really haven't seen it that often. I think I've only got hit by like one like 3 or like 2 rep variant of it, because I was already at like 85. That was on Wi-Fi though, so that was kind of scary. But Link, obviously amazing edge trapping. Bomb is such a unique tool, and it bounces for forever and always has a hitbox which combos into the explosion, which is kind of silly. You know, you get a bunch of free pressure off of that, a bunch of stage control, a bunch of mind, like, you know, Link is one of those characters that you're always scared as playing against the Link, because how versatile Bomb is and how scary it is, and how scary it is to be off stage versus Link because of the up B, because of the bomb, because of falling nair. His strength in general, like his literal power, is also really, you know, daunting, because you get hit by fair at 85 at the ledge and you might die. Up B at a shield, forward air, you know, up B in, you know, in the air to kind of drag you there. Up air is so strong, forward smash, up smash, you know, God forbid you get hit by one of those. That's really scary, and I've been proud of myself because I haven't been saying God forbid a lot in this video, so let's go me. But anyway, back to Link. I feel like he's just overall a pretty good character, but his disadvantage isn't quite strong enough, and you know, that's honestly going to be like what makes or breaks characters at this point, is their disadvantage or being able to abuse characters, and Link isn't quite fast enough to do that either unless you get those sick combos. You know, he does have the really good recoveries with his bomb, but a lot of characters can jump out there and preempt him Z-dropping the bomb and just hit him before that, and since you're going to probably be around bubble, you're going to die from that, and that is really, really detrimental to his play. And honestly, like, I feel like people are just kind of streamlining their edge guards against Link now, and it is a bit more problematic for him, which is why, you know, I feel like previously I would put him at a 7.5, maybe an 8, but 7 is definitely where he's going to go for now. And the last 7 is going to be for Sheik. I know I mentioned earlier that I think unreactable and just speedy options are really good, and Sheik's frame data is still absolutely ridiculous. It's not quite as safe on shield as you would expect if you played Smash 4, but still it's hard to react to a lot of Sheik's options and then punish them accordingly, because she has so many fast options because of her frame data just being as ridiculous as it is. You know, people say her damage output is bad, but it doesn't really matter if it takes 9 hits to get you to 40% or 3 hits to get you to 40%, because it's still a guaranteed combo and not necessarily technically difficult, even if it is more inputs in general than, let's say, a Bowser up throw up air. But this character's damage output still pretty good overall for combos. You know, edge guarding is really strong, needles are really good, bouncing fish still going to be one of the best moves in the game just because of the burst option and the great hitbox, and just great for disadvantage or getting out of it. This character is very versatile, but obviously the biggest struggle for this character is going to be killing, and I think I mentioned it earlier, I don't remember what character it was, I think it was Marth, where if you don't get a kill when you're supposed to, quote unquote, you know, air quotes for that, suddenly things can spiral, because Sheik is a light character, so suddenly she gets hit, you know, and put into knockdown at like 70%, and she's gonna die to like a charge up smash or like just random reads, and you know, it's really scary because she can't really contest you because she loses to trading. She lost to trading even in Smash 4. If you see a Sheik jump at you and you're reacting well, because you kind of have to be reacting well in order to do this, but if you just trade Sheik's aerials with your ground moves, you're going to be winning the majority of the time, not only because her moves individually do not do a lot of damage, but also because of the fact that she's so light that even if you are doing an even amount of damage, like 5% with a ground move and 5% for her forward air or whatever it does, like Nair or something, you know, she's going to be losing because of how light she is, and you know, that's a big problem. So trading with her is really efficient, and also if she misses those like up air drag down forward smash or the Nair bouncing fish and doesn't get them, you know, that's going to be hugely detrimental to her, and I feel like that's going to be one of the worst things about her. But still, her frame data, her control is really strong, and if she does get those kills, she's a pretty good character, or if she annoys you to death, because there's plenty of characters that can get annoyed to death by Sheik, and if you're one of those, she's pretty strong. But unfortunately, there's better characters at being annoying, and there's a lot of characters that don't really get annoyed by Sheik, so that's why she's going to be the last member of the rating of 7. And we're at about the halfway point, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. But anyway, let's continue on with the list. Getting into the rating of 7.5, we have around the top 30 characters. Like, each of these characters can definitely be argued for top 30. And first, we're going to talk about Mr. RNG in Hero. I think this character in a tournament setting is incredibly stressful because obviously you can roll well, get magic bursts, get flame slashes, get kabooms, you know, all those type of good spells, but then sometimes you're playing a zoner and you don't get bounce, and sometimes you're off stage and you don't get zoom. And there's just a lot of instances of not getting the thing you need and Hero losing because of it, and this frame data is not good enough to compensate because of it. I like that it's kind of true to the game because you're gonna have to like fight a little bit and then run back and see your menu, and then fight a little bit and then run back and see your menu. But unfortunately, if you don't see well, this character is inconsistent. Or he's inconsistent regardless, but you know, his bad is like pretty bad. I think, you know, if he's drawing bad spells, he's probably like a 6, but if he's drawing his best spells, he's obviously like an 8.5 or a 9, so it really just kind of averages. And I feel like in a tournament setting, that is not the greatest thing, because if you're a Hero main, you will definitely see a lot of bad rolls just as you will see a lot of good rolls, and that means you're going to be losing games to people that are worse than you, and that is not good in a tournament setting. So since that's like kind of one of the criteria of my rating of characters, I am going to put Hero a little bit lower than most people would put him. You know, still very good. Like, I'm still scared of Hero. There's definitely a lot of reason to be scared of Hero. He's one of the scariest characters in terms of mentality in the game, but I feel like sometimes not getting your roll is going to be bad enough to put him down here in 7.5. Still, obviously amazing. All the characters in this tier have done hella work at tournaments, so that is not a bad thing at all. I have chosen the Chozo's Samus to be a 7.5 in this current rating, or in this current list, because I feel like honestly Samus is pretty good. She's very frustrating. She has really good air-to-air. She has some of the best edge trapping in the entire game because of bomb and charge shot. She has really interesting setups with missile and bomb and forward air and back air and grab being as good as it is. You know, you get down throw up air at 0, which leads to 40%. You have down throw back air, which sometimes is a kill confirm. Down throw fair will combo for like 60%, which is pretty good. This character's damage output is actually amazing. There's a couple things I think is wrong with this character. You know, she's not fun for me personally, which I'm not going to say the character's bad because of that, but I just have very little interest in playing her competitively. But this character is very defensive based. I feel like it's kind of hard for her to make a play other than hoping the opponent gets impatient and like runs into charge shots when you're down, which granted, that happens a lot, and she's very good in terms of like tournament setting because of that threat of like, oh my god, what if I just get hit by this charge shot, or oh my god, what if I get thrown off stage and bomb charge shotted or bomb downer. She still has some shield break setups, although they're not quite as easy as they used to be, thank god. Like, that was always really problematic. So, you know, I think the projectile patch, that was like 2.0 or maybe 3.0, that was a really big nerf for her in my opinion, but still a really solid character. You've seen Joker Samus do really well. YB at Prime Saga did amazing. There have just been a couple showings from strong Samuses, and this character definitely has what it takes to contend with a decent amount of the high tiers. I think has a pretty good matchup with Snake, a pretty good matchup with Peach. You know, a couple characters do very well versus her. Like, I think Pikachu is a pretty easy matchup. I think Shulk and Palutena do incredibly well. Fox as well. You know, Lucina also is a hard matchup, but Samus can always kind of do it. Samus always has that comeback factor of like charge shot into like chip your shield into you're gonna get impatient or you're gonna get scared, and like, oh, I read that jump with a charge shot or a back air, or you know, you pivot grab their rolls, and you know, stage position like is crazy important against this character. Pretty solid 7.5. You know, I really wish the character had a better dash attack and a better Zera. I'd probably play her so I can make a little more plays with the character, but at the same time, with the Samus, with how defensively strong Samus is in this version, then having the offensive tools would be like absolutely ridiculous, easily like a high tier character. So she doesn't have that, so she's going to be in the upper end of mid tier, because 7.5 is the end of mid tier, by the way. So like, anyone that's in this is the top of mid tier. Ness is still an incredibly strong tournament pick, and the only reason he's this low is just honestly, I feel like my high tier got a little bit smaller, so instead of being the bottom of high tier, he's like the top of mid tier. But this character at 7.5, such solid aerials, amazing aerial mobility, the mix-ups that this character has, the out of shield options that this character has, the combos, the damage output, the edge guarding, the edge trapping, the frustration that this character can give is incredibly high. Yes, I'm biased because I really don't like Ness, but this character obviously has a huge flaw in the fact that the recovery can sometimes be hard, and if you have a sword, you're generally going to have a good matchup with Ness, although swords don't do as well as they used to, just because of the amazing air dodge that Ness has. The best air dodge, and I think in the game in terms of distance, absolutely ridiculous. You go so far, it's basically like another double jump that's faster and has invincibility, so it's kind of hard to edge guard this character. And on the opposite side of that coin, Ness has down smash, Ness has PK Thunder, which both are amazing edge guarding tools and keeping people in disadvantage. Up air is so strong. This character's damage and kill potential, this character's kill kill potential overall is some of the best in the game between back air, up air, back throw, down smash, like some of the best, most consistent and strongest kill moves in the entire game, and this character has like 4 of like the 20 that I would say for that, which is ridiculous. Obviously, the couple flaws are pretty big. He doesn't have a lot of range, and again, the edge guarding, as I mentioned, he's very susceptible to like bad disadvantage, and getting off the ledge is somewhat difficult, but also he has Magnet, which is broken. He has so many good things about this character, but those couple things make him a little bit more inconsistent in tournament, which again is something I'm valuing very heavily right now, so a 7.5 it is. In a similar vein, a character that is going to be 7.5 instead of 8 just because I kind of shrunk the size of that tier is going to be Ike, who is the best 2-button character in this game. I mentioned that Falco was the second best. Ike is going to be the best. Nair is so good for this character. Dashing, his full hop is so good. His movement is pretty strong in general. His disadvantage state isn't going to be the best. He can definitely die to that, but his recovery is honestly pretty hard to mess with. Side B is so good. It is so hard to hit side B. Actually, it's ridiculous. It's so hard to like pin that down because you know, he doesn't slow down a lot when he hits you, so you can't even just like run into it to tank it so that the up B doesn't reach. It doesn't really work like that. So Ike going to make it back from most offstage interactions unless you're like specifically like Snake or Palutena that can kind of hit him with projectiles really far out there and kind of cover that distance, but most characters have to respect it. They have to respect his Nair. You have to parry the Nair in order to get a lot of your offense going, especially if the Ike is spacing the Nairs. That is really, really difficult. It gets way harder to hit the Ike for doing anything, but also if you're playing defensive and you're avoiding the Nair, it's hard for Ike to start anything, but this character just really consistent in my opinion because just having such a strong option in Nair, having amazing ground tilts, like forward tilt and down tilt in my opinion are amazing, crazy kill potential, dash attack, up smash, Nair, up air, Nair, back air, you know, neutral B at the ledge is a really good, one of the best things to 2-frame with in the entire game. So Ike has a lot of strong options, but just not consistent. Like, I guess his couple of options are really strong, but he doesn't have a lot of strong options, so it becomes a very one-dimensional game, and if you can beat that one dimension, if your character beats that one dimension, or, you know, if the player's just really good against like parrying the Nair, then suddenly this character gets a lot worse, which is what is keeping him from being a rating of 8. Young Link is slightly falling down in my opinion in the tier list, however he still has a lot of good things about him. He is too mobile and has too many kill confirms that are full stage kill confirms. His down tilt does like 14%, his Nair is like safe on block, like Nair down tilt, back air, like up tilt or something, does like 50%. His damage up is actually ridiculous. The only flaw of this character, he's basically a better version of Sheik, where it's like, man, you can do all these cool things and then you can't kill, but then obviously Young Link has like down tilt to up B and arrow to up B and bomb to up B and boomerang to up B or boomerang to forward air, bomb to like all those things to forward air as well. But if you get those, you know, get out of those percent windows, he's gonna have to raw kill you with like a Nair or like a random up B into like up air or something that's 50-50 on, you know, the hit of grounded up B. It kind of gets hard for a Young Link to kill, and again, because of how abusable his disadvantage is and how abusable his recovery is, that can snowball pretty quickly. And again, in this high tier, top tier area, one flaw, like one actual problematic flaw is going to be enough to bump you down a couple spots, you know, under an 8.5 to an 8. Honestly, his recovery is that, like, that thing. That's basically the only thing wrong with him. And, you know, he even has a tether recovery, and uppy's pretty good, and if you mess with it and you're wrong and he reverses the uppy, you can die at really early percents. But just overall, Young Link, really fast, really fluid, but again, he's so difficult, and if you miss that one confirm or that one combo, that can send him back so far. But being solid in a tournament setting is really good. And the last character before we get into the rating of 8 and essentially high tier is going to be Mr. Game & Watch. I was very wrong about Mr. Game & Watch at the beginning of the game because I was not aware of how blatantly strong his defensive options were. He is one of the most aggravating characters to play against in tournament, and that's not just because of me. I know like so many people, even if they win the Game & Watch matchup, like I see Palutenas and Lucinas be like, yo, I hate fighting Game & Watch. That is just the power of this character, and while it's not fun and people will get made fun of because that's just the way the community is, you know, that is really good for tournament because you see like, oh, you have to play this pretty good Game & Watch, and you just roll your eyes and go, ugh, I don't want to play that. So you already have the mental advantage as the Game & Watch player before the set even starts, and that is invaluable. You get down smash, forward smash, and you're just like, and you roll your eyes, you're like, oh my god, that was so dumb. Down smash, up smash, all going to be safe on shield, you know, crazy aerial mobility, the ability to switch from defensive backers, defensive chef, defensive like dash attacks and up smash, to offensive nairs, you know, chef pressuring or forcing people towards a corner, dash attacks, dash grabs, run up shield to force people to swing into you, and then up B. You know, this character gets so much damage off of just up B out of shield frame 3, which is basically like almost nothing is safe on shield if you are against Game & Watch. I think the only thing I can think of at, you know, at the very beginning is like some of Ice Climber's aerials and then Palutena's forward air specifically, and that's literally it. This character does really well versus a lot of the top tiers too, but just I feel like does decent against the high tiers. I feel like there's a lot of characters that randomly give Game & Watch trouble, you know, or it doesn't have like amazing, like as in Game & Watch doesn't beat a lot of the top tiers in my opinion, but definitely doesn't lose super hard to many of them, except maybe Palutena and Shulk. Those matchups seem super bad, but this character has a pretty good matchup with Pikachu. You know, Meister's taken several games off of Leo. You know, I think he beat Light, you know, and that's Fox, and Fox is pretty good. You know, this character is just so obnoxious. So again, the mental aspect, the tournament aspect of this character is so strong because of the fact that he's so consistent and he's so obnoxious. And then like he randomly has those swing factors of course you have down throw 9, you have down throw, or rather you have down smash, F smash, you have like backers off stage, you have his edge guarding, you have just how obnoxious like dealing with his down air is and dealing with his landing options, and then just, you know, you hit him twice and he's gonna up and you have to wait, and it's just like a worse version of Bayonetta in Smash 4 in that regard of like you have to hit them and then respect their burst option because like up B or dive kick or witch time in Smash 4, and now it's just Game & Watch up B into down air, and it's so hard to punish it for the majority of characters. So this character, super solid, but I don't think solid enough. I still think a little too gimmicky to be a solid high tier, but damn, it's close, and maybe next tier list I will consider him that. So now, starting with the rating of 8, we are getting into the high tier portion of this tier list, and first I want to talk about Ryu. Ryu, damage output is crazy, kill potential is insane, his combos are so cool, a little bit technically demanding, although practicing your inputs isn't the most difficult thing in the world, but honestly more so the more technically demanding thing is constantly doing your light A presses versus your heavy A presses, considering you can't use the C-stick for that like you were able to in Smash 4, which is kind of annoying, but his normals, very good, pretty safe on shield. Obviously the auto turnaround makes it really hard for characters to cross up safely because he'll just drop shield and do correct tilts on your like the correct direction regardless of if you cross up or not. They don't have to think about it, so that area is a little bit easier, which makes it more difficult in doubles, but that is largely irrelevant to what I am talking about in this tier list. His kill confirms are actually ridiculous. If you don't have multi-hits, he's going to just focus and go away from you. It's so hard to juggle this character if you don't have those multi-hits. Edge guarding, though, is a pretty big difficulty for him. It's hard for him to get back on stage due to the fact that his up B doesn't snap the ledge, so you can two-frame him, or rather like hit him from behind his head off stage fairly easily, and also, you know, he has to then like typically like Tatsu to get back, and if you just jump out there preemptively, you can hit the Tatsu or the double jump Tatsu fairly easily as most characters that have like average edge guarding capabilities, so that's going to be the hardest thing for Ryu, and obviously dealing with multi-hits is also another big challenge for him, but the Hadouken buff makes it nice when he has to deal with zoners. He doesn't really have to worry about them as much. I feel like he does pretty well versus them in general, and again, that kill potential is so explosive, his combos so explosive. You get hit by a level 2 focus, you're pretty much just done for your whole stock, and again, it is so ambiguous when he wants to do anything to you because of the fact that he can spam those tilts on your shield. It's really difficult to get around all of it, kind of unfun to fight against sometimes, but as a tournament character, we take those because if you're always going to be scared of what your opponent can do, that means that your opponent has the mental edge. So Ryu almost always has the mental edge on his opponent, and that is very valuable, and honestly what put him into the rating of 8 as opposed to a 7.5. Banjo and Kazooie are still a very new character, obviously 5.0 only as of release, coming out I think 8 days prior to me recording this, so still a very new character, but I released a video on him if you want to go check that out for my more long form opinion. But honestly, I think Banjo has crazy capabilities of switching between offense and defense. His aerials are all amazing. His recovery is actually pretty hard to mess with due to the fact that he has that side B. He has a lot of variability in what he can do. He has a lot of mix-ups in general, both offensively, defensively, in disadvantage, etc. You know, if he wants to relax a little bit, he can shoot the eggs, shoot the grenades, kind of space with aerials, or when he wants to get in there, he can use the items as kind of like a way in. Although his offense isn't the greatest thing in the world, he's going to mostly be poking with F tilts and down tilts, or maybe like shooting bombs to kind of restrict your space and then go for like a grab read or a sidestep read or something like that. But his edge trapping is actually ridiculous, some of the best in the game. Having those lingering projectiles like grenade, like you know, Luigi's Zair, like splat bomb, all those type of things are so good for edge trapping, like Samus bomb, and Banjo obviously obviously has access to one of them, and it is ridiculous, you know, and people optimize this character and understand the death percents and understand all those little situations that kind of feel like, oh, that was really cool. When that becomes standard, I feel like this character is going to get a lot better. You know, I feel like it's slightly hard and disadvantaged sometimes for this character because they don't really have a fast aerial, and also, you know, side B has startup, obviously, so characters like Palutena, characters like Pikachu, characters like Joker can kind of just get in and stay in. But again, if you have a little bit of breathing, you get that grenade out, and then suddenly it is a whole different ball game. So Banjo, really solid in my opinion. High tier for now. I think can go even higher. I don't really think he's gonna go lower than the very bottom of high tier. So honestly, really solid, super fun character. Love him. Please play him. Shoutouts to Nintendo for making such an amazing character actually super fun. Yoshi has received a little bump from my last tier list. I don't know what about it. I think just his aerial mobility, in my opinion, has just been slightly more valuable to me. I think this character, obviously, super strong damage, dare shield poking. Dare just one of the best aerials in the entire game, does so much damage, combos into stuff, you know, is a kill move if you get him on a top platform with it. Basically, always shield pokes or does, you know, 80% of shield damage when then your opponent has to run away and not shield. And then Yoshi just has amazing aerials, 3-frame nair, 1-frame double jump, super armor, you know, just really versatile recovery, really versatile character in general, can be very fast and defensive and very fast and aggressive, super good edge guarding. I think this character is so versatile. The only reason he's not higher is just because some of the top tier matchups kind of brickwall him. I think he has a lot of difficulty with Shulk and Wolf and Palutena and maybe a couple other ones that I haven't got to yet of characters, but just so, unfortunately, those matchups are pretty difficult. But overall, I feel like Yoshi can win basically every matchup. I feel like even those matchups aren't super bad. They're more so like 4-6 at worst, and Yoshi just a lot of fun, so fluid, and because of his damage up and his combo potential and just his kill potential as well, you know, the ability to get jab blocks and stuff like that, there's so many little situations where Yoshi can just take advantage of characters like super hard. And you know, obviously Suarez has been doing amazing. You have a couple of the Japanese Yoshis like Rotsuku being really good, and Ron, I think, plays Yoshi. Just this character, honestly underrated. I feel like a lot of people don't play him because he has that stigma of being annoying for some reason. I don't know why everyone hates Yoshi. Yoshi's sick. Love Yoshi. Shoutouts to Sid, shoutouts to Suarez and the other Yoshis. I appreciate all of you. You know, I've talked about Yoshi several times. I don't really have anything new to add. Just he's a cool character. He's really good, and his air mobility is ridiculous, and definitely that and down air are the defining characteristics of why he's so good. And of course, the double jump armor. Toon Link is, in my opinion, one of the most slept on characters in the game still. Has an amazing forward tilt, amazing kill confirms, a crazy up B out of shield, and also offensively up being like Young Link and Link do. You know, the up B off stage is really strong, up B on stage is really strong, bomb forward air, bomb up air, up tilt up air, just a lot of kill confirms. And you know, I saw an amazing Toon Link play at DreamHack Montreal. You know, his name was Xcal, and he really showed me like how consistent the character could be, only losing to Mars and then Jen, who were like two of the top 3 players, like first and third. So that's not even bad at all. And Palutena, he beat Jen in winners, which in that matchup seems awful because of the reflector and because of how just fast Palu is and how just, yeah, Palu's Palu. Palu shuts down a lot of matchups, right? And Xcal was still able to 2-0 him in winners, and so crazy skill from this character, you know, just really set play heavy, right? Boomerang, bomb, forward air, you know, Zair into dash attack, F tilt being super good, down tilt being to tech chases, you know, the grab being bad is one of the worst things about this character, but still, you know, even though you don't have combos, you do have a kill throw in terms of back throw. This character's killing is just so consistent because, again, just like in Smash 4, Rage doesn't stack on items, so, you know, Bomb will always send, you know, where it will at lower percents, and then Fair with Rage is going to be, like, absolutely killer. It's going to be so strong. You're going to get kills mad early if you have Rage, and Toon Link can just play annoying, but also still make it back. I think I saw Xcal do a 3-1 stock comeback against Jen, and that was absolutely insane, especially, again, in that bad matchup. That was in, like, losers, quarters, or whatever. I think it was for 5th, yeah. So that would make, like, that's crazy that you can still do that even with, like, a camping, you know, air quotes type of character. So this character is super strong, in my opinion, really slept on. I think one of the more underrated characters in the entire game, just because he's not Young Link and he's not cool and flashy, because he's more just solid. Now we have American Ryu in Ken, and basically this character is just the slightly better rushdown version of Ryu. His Tatsu's a little more ambiguous, a little worse defensively. You know, his combos, you know, if he carries you up, are slightly better, and you know, they do like similar amounts of damage. I think Ryu's, or rather Ken's Nair train is better to get like edgeguards or like the Nair up air combos or whatever. But you know, honestly, like characters pretty similar to Ryu. It's mostly matchup dependent who you want to go. You know, whether it's a rushdown character, you know, if you're fighting small characters or characters that you're not going to get as many hits or like as big combos, you're going to want to go Ryu because his single hits do more damage. But if it's a character, you're going to schmix and you're going to get a lot of hits and you're going to get those extended combos, and Ken seems to be the play if they're not able to get out of those combos. But honestly, just a lot of the things I said about Ryu also apply to Ken. There's a couple differences between them, obviously, but the speed is going to be the main thing. Worse fireballs because it doesn't have the access to red fireball or sunk or shot, whatever it's called. So basically, just copy paste what I said for Ryu for Ken and it works. Rob is one of those characters that if you don't have a good matchup versus him, you have a bad matchup versus him. He has so many just amazing tools, and especially as a tournament character, things like Z-drop, gyro, nair, side B are going to be so good for him. It's always scary to play against Rob because you don't know if you're going to get hit by like nair, dash attack, fair, down tilt into like sidestep, read, nair, side B, because that happens, and I've seen that happen multiple times as multiple Robs. It's not even like a specific person that does that. It just kind of happens. You know, his edge guarding between gyro, back air, side B are all amazing if you don't have an amazing recovery. You know, the only negative about him basically is his disadvantage isn't the greatest because nair is punishable, and also he does get comboed really hard by a lot of characters because of his size and his weight and his floatiness. But, you know, sometimes if the opponent isn't playing perfect, which a lot of the times in tournament people aren't, then he gets away with nairs and he lands on you and gets nair up air. He has down throw, you know, mash mix-ups of down throw up smash, down throw up tilt up air, down throw up air. You know, he has obviously kill throw at later percents with up throw, you know, positional throws with forward throw, back throw to get people off stage to then edge guard them. As I mentioned, his edge guarding and his edge trapping in general is really good. Gyro, super cool, and he's honestly unoptimized because I remember seeing a video about like the optimal Rob combos, which were all sick as hell, and no one's doing them because they're like really difficult but also super sick. And if people start doing that, that would be amazing. But like one of the best ground moves in the entire game, if not the best ground move in Rob's down tilt, because it's like a 4-frame normal that's -2 that also combos into itself, that also can combo into gyro, which combos into up smash. So that's pretty silly. He's a pretty good character. Honestly, one of those characters that's just like, I beat everyone below me basically, except maybe like Samus in Game & Watch, but does so well versus a lot of characters, both lower than him and above him. But those couple matchups that he doesn't are really bad. I think Paolo is really bad. I think Pika is really bad. I think Snake, Shulk, Joker all do incredibly well versus the character, even Zero Suit. But if you're not one of those characters, it's really hard to beat Rob, and Rob just has so many options, both to keep a solid lead, to come back, to just be even with the opponent, and he's just really good and has a lot of like good, strong, quote-unquote gimmicks. So that's gonna make a good character both in tournament, in friendlies, just solid overall. Bowser is another character I have a recent video on, so if I'm going to put that in a card up above if you want to see the more detailed video. But this character is so strong, so scary, the kill potential of this character, the speed of this character, the edge trapping of this character, the added shield options of this character. Flame Breath is amazing, side B being so good, the pressure that this character exudes because he's so strong and does so much damage is absolutely ridiculous. We've seen Leon have like 7 or 6 top 10 wins and just do so well overall in this game. I absolutely love watching Bowser. He's so scary at any moment. One of the most fearsome characters in the entire game, and again, that mental aspect of that is going to be so huge in tournament because you really need so much experience against Bowser in order to feel comfortable fighting against him, which, I mean, some people do. I know there's still a couple rough matchups, like Pikachu is a pretty rough matchup. I think Palutena can do fairly well, although I definitely, Nairo didn't go Palutena against him, so maybe I'm wrong about that one. But a couple bad matchups. He doesn't do super great against zoners, but at the same time, he does so much damage that even if he's losing to a zoner, it's like, I'm losing, I'm at 100 and you're at 60, landing there, back air, lol, that killed, because it's a kill confirm. I saw the weak up smash into back air kill confirm that he got against Waddy. You know, Leon won a B tier, I'm pretty sure it was, at the 2GG run it back, which was absolutely fantastic. Super good showing for him. Obviously, again, I'm not considering tournament results in my tier list, you know, definitively, but showing that a character can beat like Pac-Man, like a definitive, like one of these zoners in the game, and actually that's who I'm talking about next, spoilers, but like the fact that he can beat Pac-Man, like the best Pac-Man, is absolutely insane, and prove that it doesn't matter how good a character's zoning is, you can still get there with Bowser. You know, the worst thing about him is going to be his off stage, so if you can edge guard him or keep him in the air and avoid that down air and that down B, that is going to be huge against Bowser, but not that many characters can do that in the first place. I think really on the cusp of top 20, he's like literally like 19 to 22. If he was like, if the people between 8 and 8.5, like he was like an 8.35, I'd put him there, but I just tried to keep it simple decibels. So just really strong character. Honestly, I feel like more people should play him, but he's super sick. And the last character in my 8 rating is going to be Pac-Man. This character does so much damage, has so many setups, is so hard to edgeguard, has an amazing disadvantage because of Hydrant and Side B, and just is so obnoxious. This is one of the characters I mentioned, kind of like a Game & Watch, that you know, like, oh, you have to fight a Pac-Man, and you roll your eyes because you're like, I don't want to chase this dude for an entire set to then get upbeat out of shield, or nared out of shield, or Gallagher for 50%, or stun into forward smash because Pac-Man's forward smash is randomly like a top 8 strong forward smash compared to like all the heavies. Like even that move is crazy strong. But this character, fair does like 9%. Nair out of shield is one of the best out of shield options in the game. Has amazing edge guarding because of fruit, because of down air, because of nair, forward air chains. Just has so many things that this character can just abuse. Has some bad matchups, some really bad matchups like Palutena and Snake in particular. But if you're not those two characters, he really doesn't have a matchup worse than maybe 45-55. I think honestly a really solid pick in the meta, doesn't really get counterpicked that hard. I mean, Palutena, fairly common, same for Snake, at least in America, so that can be fairly problematic for a lot of people. I know that Nairo has like a crazy game recount against all the Palutenas. I think he 3-0'd T at Prime Saga, and then like has 3-0'd Sinji multiple times, so it's a pretty bad look for that matchup, but still one of the best zoners in the game. Again, crazy burst options, crazy out of shield options, amazing just like passive play, because like throw Hydrant, run behind it, get your fruit, and that's going to be so hard to get around because if you jump at him, then he just kind of swats you out of the air with forward air, which combos into another forward air, or throws you long, like puts you down far enough that he throws the fruit, and then can kind of get there and like pressure you. His grab is now a combo, and it's actually like it's actually a really good grab. Super active. Up throw upper being amazing. You know, I've definitely got like up throw up air. I tried to respond into like up tilt up air, and then like you just take so much damage from this character. It kind of just builds randomly, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm at bell percent, and then you get belled at 80 and then get forward smash and die. This character's nuts. And we have made it to the rating of 8.5. These are the characters that are so close to being top tier, because I consider top tier 9 and above. But starting off, we are going to have Greninja. Honestly, everyone in this tier has just one thing that is like, oh, that's what's keeping you from top tier. And for that, in Greninja terms, is going to be out of shield options, because he crumbles to pressure fairly hard, or at least people get to keep their turn against him, which is really bad. A lot of the top characters, you hit their shield, they can immediately retort, or at least take their turn, and then there's kind of that back and forth depending on spacing, and like if they do it correctly, you know, if like the aggressor is like perfect on shield and things like that, that is what can honestly determine a lot. But Greninja, you can do things pretty safely because he has a bad grab, and also shield grabs are worse in general, and then he doesn't have any out of shield aerials, his best being like short hop down air out of shield, which isn't exactly good. He needs to parry everything or just be mobile. Granted, Greninja has no problem being mobile, one of the fastest characters in the game with one of the best jumps in the entire game. He's actually incredible at that. Amazing combos, crazy kill potential, down tilt up smash, down tilt forward air, down tilt 50-50s with like up smash and forward smash, down smash being a great quick kill move. I know I saw that against Stroder versus Tweak at the Summit qualifier back in March. That was ridiculous. It punished a Wario Fair, like a spaced Wario Fair. It was OD. You know, slightly abusable recovery, but that's only with people that really understand how to edge guard, you know, multi-directional up Bs, which is not that many people. You know, you need like lingering hitboxes or just to be really on top of it in order to do that. But Greninja just has so many strong attributes above him. His momentum is absolutely insane. Definitely one of the scariest characters when you get hit by him. But again, unfortunately, if you are able to put that pressure on Greninja, he folds just a little bit, and that is what's going to keep him from top tier. What's going to keep Chrom from top tier is the fact that his recovery is still somewhat exploitable. It's way better than people give it credit for, including myself generally, but Chrom really consistent in terms of combos and in terms of killing. Obviously jab, back air, just the general sword being consistent is really nice for him. You know, up B out of shield being frame 10 like 27% is going to be absolutely amazing. He can play both offensive because down tilt and nair are both relatively safe on shield. Then he can play defensive because his movement is amazing. He can whiff punish super well. He can edge trap, one of the best in the game of like characters that don't have like lingering things that kind of stay near the ledge, like a Snake up smash or like a Samus bomb. His edge trapping is arguably the best just because F tilt, jab, forward smash, you know, all those things are absolutely amazing. And speaking of jab and forward smash, did you know that they combo into each other in sequence? That's absolutely insane. That can steal stocks. There's a bit of cheese with Chrom between like, oh, you tried to edge guard him and then you got hit by up, you like clipped by it and then suddenly you died. Jab, forward smash. You know, this does, general killing of this character is so good. Obviously, if he's up a stock, he can do like nair, fair, up B, and that's just going to kill this character. You always have to be careful if you're down a stock or even if you're on even stocks and you're up percent, because he can go for those cheesy things. And again, this character is so solid. Sometimes you get hit once and your entire stock is gone. on, you know, you really have to be super good at using your air dodges, because again, if you do get hit off stage in a bad position, there are a lot of times where Chrom just dies, but honestly, there are just as many situations when Chrom hits you and you just die, so not going to put him anywhere lower than 8.5. Absolutely fantastic character, and he's just so good. He can be your cup of tea if you want consistency, as opposed to Roy, who's also in this tier. He's a bit the more explosive type. Like, I think Roy is very slightly better, like 8.51, but you know, this character a bit more cheesy with side B. You know, jab side B is a thing. You have jab back air going to be stronger than Chrom's in general, but jab forward smash not really going to be a thing. A slightly less abusable recovery, but also a less risky recovery to try to mess with. We've seen Roy have great results. Now Goblin Man is doing really well again. I mentioned earlier Salt One when it came to Cloud, but he's a really good Roy. You know, this character, again, similar to Chrom, can play defensive because up B out of shield, even though it doesn't do 26, still a decent out of shield option. You have up smash out of shield. You have things like Nair and down tilt to be relatively safe, even max spaced, even though they're not the sweet spot. But this character overall just a lot cheesier than Chrom for the most part because of that early killing with side B and things like that. But just, this character is just so scary because dying at, you know, 85 to an F tilt is a bit scarier than dying to one at 105 from Chrom, even if Chrom's is more consistent. This character is super scary. Again, they're really interchangeable depending on what your style of play is, so both characters absolutely fantastic, definitely huge tournament threats. But again, similar to Marth, sometimes Roy doesn't get those kills, and that will be very detrimental considering how easily it is to like juggle him compared to a lot of the high tiers, and especially edgeguard him. Like, that's not a good look, so things like that are really scary for Roy, and similar to Chrom, but I guess slightly less. But again, it's a little easier to mess with if you're the opponent of Roy, but it's slightly harder to, I guess, get those edge guards correctly. Pichu is still a fantastic character with crazy damage output, amazing killing, great 2-frames, great edge guarding, just a presence in this meta that is still very much there. However, the nerfs definitely did make defensive play a lot stronger against him, and there's a lot of zoners or semi-zoners in the top, and that is going to honestly what keeps Pichu out of the top tier is just the struggle of dealing with zoners having to self-damage, and considering the fact that he is so light and doesn't have a hitbox on his recovery, those couple things are going to keep him slightly below. Obviously, Void does not play the character super often anymore, although I think he's like secondarying him with Joker, so still definitely there. We've seen a huge showing from Black Twins recently. He's had a surge up, so definitely has a bunch of showings in both America. I'm pretty sure Neotono still plays him in Japan as well, but going to be slightly less dominant than he was pre-patch because just the fact that he deals so much damage to himself, that is actually going to make a huge difference because playing defensive, suddenly he's going to have to throw more T-Jolts to get in. You avoid them, everything just does more self-damage, then suddenly, like, I definitely have realized that Pichus often do between 15 to 20% of their damage per stock in self-damage, and considering he dies at between 80 to 90, that's a quarter of your stock for doing nothing. If you have the lead against Pichu, yeah, he's cheesy because you have like up air thunder and just like edge guarding, like back airs clipping you from like the very, very tip of it. High Void, you definitely did that to me a couple times, but like that's so scary. But again, the fact that if you play more solid than Pichu or as solid as Pichu, you are probably going to beat him just because of the amount of self-damage and how light he is. Mario's kind of insane. This character is actually ridiculous. He has such great aerials. His air control is some of the best in the game between back air, down air, up air. Those three moves are going to be absolutely fantastic. Nair going to be relatively safe on shield. F tilt, a great ground move. You obviously have the crazy confirms he has off of grab. At 0, you get what, like up throw, down air, up air, which is like 29, and then he basically does upwards of 25 to 40% per combo up until like 90 or 80%, which is crazy. Down throw, up air, down air. I don't know if that works anymore, but it sounds like it should. He obviously has spikes. He has flood, which is immediate stage control, which is so good because you don't want to be off stage versus Mario because of the fact that he has cape, he has back air, he has F smash 2 frames. F smash is going to be ridiculous in how much it pulls back anyway. This character is just obnoxious. So much damage, like up air out of shield into landing, nair, down tilt, like reverse up air, back air does like 60%. And like, it's not even that hard. Like, I know I just said a random combo, but like that happens so often. I've seen it so frequently in tournaments. Like, it is actually ridiculous. This character is so consistent. Honestly, the one flaw he has is he's not, I guess, particularly cheesy, but if you don't count flood and cape as cheesy, then like I can understand that, but I guess not quite as dominant as, like, he doesn't have something absolutely amazing compared to a lot of the top tiers, but that's basically it. Like, he's so solid, he's really fast, his air mobility is amazing, he gets in a lot on zoners and has a reflector, obviously. He does so much damage. I guess he just has to, like, quote-unquote honestly kill you with, like, smash attack reads with up smash and forward smash for the most part, although he does have a kill throw and back throw. But I don't know, this character is just really strong, super slept on overall, I feel like. You know, I was definitely one of them that thought he was worse, but this character, you know, a lot of because of Dark Wizzy and players like Prodigy and Master Mario has been seeing a lot of play, which is not fun because I don't really like this character, and he's just so scary. Like, any Mario can just beat you because he has such good stages in this meta too. Like, Yoshi's Battlefield, Smashville, and Pokemon Stadium are all really good for Mario, so you're gonna get a good stage for him the majority of the games that you play as him, and that is really invaluable in a character. And last in the 8.5, and the last character in high tier, again, most of these are tied anyway, is going to be Mega Man. This character is so obnoxious. His disadvantage is pretty good because Leaf Shield is so hard to mess with. His neutral is some of the best in the game because he's aggressively zoning you, if that makes sense. Pellets are absolutely fantastic. He has the great aerials in terms of forward air and back air. He has kill confirms because of Metal Blade up tilt. He has amazing edge guarding because of forward air and back air. He can throw projectiles at you forever. He's really good at like edge trapping you because he can like throw Crash Bomb on the ledge and just like throw Metal Blade, and he just has so many options just trying to hit you at once. He nickels and dime you for so much damage and then suddenly can just kill you at so early percents with Metal Blade up tilt or forward air or back air or the kill throw or throwing you off stage or up air being amazing. Like, this character is so obnoxious. The only negative is that he doesn't really have great out of shield options if you kind of stay in front of him, because forward air is frame like 9. It feels way faster than that, but it's actually frame 9. You know, I think he does struggle with a couple characters in the meta such as Palutena, Pikachu, and Fox, but just this character is so strong overall, just really shuts down more characters than almost any other character in the entire game besides maybe the aforementioned Palutena and Pikachu. But if you are like the third most invalidating character in the game, that's pretty damn good. Mega Man's super scary, basically top tier, but not quite there in my opinion. And members of the E-Fam, we have finally made it to top tier. These are going to be the top of the top characters, starting with my 9 rating, or rating of 9. First off, going to be Olimar. Basically, the rating of 9 are going to have like, these characters have like one fatal flaw, or something that's not quite as broken as the other top tiers. And I'm going to start off with Olimar, because this character doesn't have a shield. But besides not having a shield, this character is absolutely fantastic, has some of the best zoning in the game, super frustrating to play against, amazing out of shield options, the crazy damage racking, amazing edge trapping, really good 2 frames with down tilt into back air. You know, not really an edge guarding character for the most part, except for like, you know, down airs basically, trying to like 2 frame or just like get around the opponent's like recovery, especially yellow, because that's crazy. But like purple is so good. Yeah, like blue kill throws are ridiculous. The range of yellow is so strong. I'm sure like enough people have talked about Olimar, but the reason he's not a 9.5 is honestly just because of the fact that he sometimes doesn't have a shield and things poke full shield randomly. Like, even like sometimes single hits poke full shields, and that's kind of unfortunate because he could be playing perfectly and then oops, he gets shield poked into disadvantage, and if you guess the whistle correctly, then like suddenly that character is going to be off stage. And since he doesn't have a hitbox on his recovery, he is edge guardable unless he's like throwing purples to cover himself, but for the most part that doesn't happen super frequently, or you know, you just get rid of the purples, which is fine anyway, even if you don't finish the kill on the edge guard. So Olimar a lot of the times is about resource management and knowing what Pikmin is next for Olimar, because then you can kind of assume what they want to do. Obviously it's then on the Olimar to mix that up, but there's a lot of mental aspects that go you know, behind playing Olimar, and then suddenly he just YOLO runs up and up smashes you, and then you take 70, and that can happen. Definitely a top tier character. My bad for thinking he was worse than the last tier list. I was wrong, I'm sorry. Wario is going to be the next character that I feel like is a little bit lacking, but not lacking in terms of clutch, because that is definitely there, especially because of Waft, but because of the fact that his hitboxes other than up tilt are honestly pretty mediocre. It's easy for a lot of characters just beat out his hitboxes because they're not really disjointed even a little bit. Like, I've beat out his nair with my back air, and my back air is not disjointed at all. Like, my forward air is, but not my back air. And so this character can honestly just kind of be boxed out by a lot of characters, but his speed is kind of annoying. Like, he's not super fast, but his dash is really, really good. His air mobility is obviously amazing. He has crazy strong combos like nair, upper, or just like up tilt, upper, and his edge guarding is really good because he has down air, which is huge hugely disjointed. It's actually pretty hard to edgeguard him because of the combination of his amazing air mobility, his crazy disjointed up B. I don't know why his up B is so disjointed, and then obviously he has access to bike if you try to go low to edgeguard him. So this character kind of tricky, and then obviously Waft's going to be one of the most polarizing things in the game, but I feel like all the top tiers of the people above him in like 9.5 and 10 are just more solid, and that's not necessarily bad for Wario. I mean, like, Wario, an absolutely fantastic character. I definitely understand if you want to argue that he's top 10 or top 8 or top 6 or something like that. I don't necessarily disagree, but I had to make these decisions somewhere, and Wario, while he is definitely top tier, is not, in my opinion, top 10. He's just right below it. Wolf is still an incredibly strong tournament pick with crazy damage, really consistent good aerials, consistent killing in terms of back air and back throw, and obviously down smash and forward smash are really strong, and up smash out of shield going to be one of the better up smashes in the entire game, one of the best out of shield options in the entire game, especially for a ground move. This character just has a lot of things, but I feel like he's slightly too slow in order to contend with a lot of the top tiers. Basically every single top tier other than like Peach and Snake are incredibly fast characters that have a lot of unreactable options in burst, and Wolf unfortunately doesn't really have that. He does have good throw combos between up throw fair, down throw dash attack. He has a lot of consistent damage, but he doesn't really have that fear of like, I need to be able to react to all these things at once. And obviously he doesn't have an exploitable recovery because his up B does not go far, and his side B is definitely hittable because the hitbox does not come out before he gets there. So Wolf gonna have slightly too many disadvantages for him to be a 9.5 or a 10, but definitely a solid top tier, and no one will ever, like, he'll never be below that. And the last character I gave a 9 rating is going to probably be the biggest drop-off of any character in my tier list, at least of the upper echelon. That is going to be Lucina, because as I mentioned with Wolf, just slightly too slow. There's not a lot of unreactable options that this character has. Still obviously fantastic, one of the best characters in the game for sure. I definitely can see her being higher than this, but the more I think about it, the less like more honest, quote unquote, this character is for being a top tier, because she just doesn't really have a lot of combos. She kind of just hits you and keeps you in disadvantage, but at the same time her disadvantage isn't the greatest. She's kind of floaty, doesn't have good aerials below her. It's kind of a struggle for Lucina to land, and yes, Lucina is like way above Marth, literally 3 entire ratings above Marth. Deal with it at YouTube comments. You know, the most cheese that the character has is obviously going to be Shield Breaker, because getting shield broken is really detrimental in this matchup, especially because you're going to want to shield a lot against Lucina, try to get those parries, but again, if you low profile a lot of things, Lucina will have a decent amount of trouble. You know, I don't think Lucina has a matchup worse than 45-55 out of their favor, but at the same time, even against bad characters, I feel like the best matchup for Lucina is 60-40. Granted, that's probably at least half the cast, but overall I just feel like doesn't do well enough versus all the top tiers. I feel like loses too many of those matchups or gets outshined in certain random areas for her to be top 10, because now we're about to get into the top 10, which is a rating of 9.5 or higher. The first character I'm going to mention in 9.5 is going to be Fox. Yes, I think Fox is better than Wolf now, because while I valued throw combos really heavily before, I do now value, as I mentioned a couple times, speed and unreactability, and Fox has all of that. His combos are ridiculous, landing nair at 0 into like down tilt, back air, weak dash attack, up air, and that does like 80% and true against like non-floaties basically. I've seen Eon do it so many times. Light's starting to do the down tilts as well. He is so rewarding off of any hit. Dash attack is such a good move in neutral. He obviously then can run back and shoot lasers. His ground game is some of the best in the game. He doesn't really need a crazy air game, but he just has a really good juggle game, so you have to jump to get around Fox, but then he just whiff punishes whatever you're going to land with dash attack, and that is just so hard to deal with. It's so hard to get around. Yes, his disadvantage is kind of unfortunate, and yes, he sometimes does struggle with characters like Fox and Pikachu, but at the same time, he's just so solid overall. Like, his offstage is going to be the worst thing about him, but it's actually mad hard to edgeguard Fox for like no apparent reason, especially because of all the wall techs that he's able to get. You know, up B having the hitbox, side B going so far and being able to drift back out and in. It's so versatile for him. It's like, I feel like it should be easier to edgeguard him, but it's really not. And one big thing that's kind of been developing for Foxes is they're starting to down smash 2-frame consistently. You know, that's a pretty big deal, because now, you know, he lost access to the up tilt in Smash 4 and people were like, oh, he can only edge trap, he can't really 2-frame you, but now with the down smash 2-frame, that is going to be a big improvement for him. So that is honestly one of the things that put him above Wolf and kept him in the top 10. Yes, Light, this character is top 10. You know what character is also top 10 that the pro player will never say is top 10? Zero Suit. Yes, Mars, Zero Suit is top 10. This character is the epitome of unreactable and the epitome of you can't hit her. If Zero Suit wants to play defensive, there are so few characters, if any, that can actually hold forward and hit her because of flip jump, because of her amazing jump, because of her amazing speed. This character is so hard to deal with. Zair, Nair, like a combination of landing Zair, landing Nair, and landing Bear are going to make this character so safe overall. Rising Fair is going to make the offense a lot more unpredictable. You know, grabs aren't going to be the greatest. Obviously, you're not going to get crazy grab combos, but, you know, you get knockdowns or you get situations where the opponent has to jump out, and if they jump out, then they just kind of get back aired or they don't have a jump, and now Zero Suit is trapping you with back airs and down smashes. And the biggest thing about this character is I feel like compared to even every character above her, I feel like Zero Suit has the most consistent killing in all of top tier, except maybe Wario. This character has Nair back air. This character just has back air in general. Has up B out of shield. Has down smash to up B. Has down smash to forward smash. Has Nair to down B. Has paralyzer into up B. Has side B, which is safe on shield and also kills at like 140. If you live longer than like 145 against this character, maybe 150, it's because you have made it so hard for Zero Suit to hit you, but at the same time, she's probably not getting hit anyway, so she's just slowly racking on damage, and then, oh, you got hit by that side B, or that paralyzer, or that back air. This character is so hard to pin down, has one of the best disadvantage states in the entire game because of how good flip jump is, because of how versatile her movement is, and her fast fall is amazing, and her down air just gets her out of situations, or at the very least gets her double jump and her down B back, which means like, oh, you hit like an up air, and if you're not a character with a kill up air, that's not going to really mean much anyway. This character is just so good, like so mobile, so defensive, so hard to hit. Like this character just says, I don't want to get hit for the next 30 seconds and does it. Marth has made so many comebacks on so many top players because he just decides not to get hit, and that's not even like infrequent. He does it all the time, which means it must be a character thing as well. This character is ridiculous. Pokemon Trainer is so versatile. Obviously, the three Pokemon are all of them are just so good. Squirtle being one of the most consistent combo characters, one of the best ground games in the entire game because of forward tilt and just dash grab and the amazing dash that this character has. It's not necessarily fast, but it just like moves you so, like the dash has such good burst, which a lot of characters don't have. You know, really good aerials in terms of forward air, up air, down air, and back air. You know, really ambiguous movement. Again, like one thing that each I feel like Pokemon has is a mediocre disadvantage state, but because of Switch, it makes it so much harder to pin down because you're always scared of the switch because you don't want to overcommit versus this character, because anytime any of the versions switch into the other Pokemon, they have a huge punish waiting if they want to, like if the opponent overcommits. Ivysaur still does crazy damage off of throws and is really good at zoning characters that can't really deal with it. You know, Razor Leaf, even though it got nerfed, is still pretty good. Razor Leaf up B still a combo. Razor Leaf up air, you know, back air strings, up air, or up B cheese is way worse, but still Nair up B is going to kill relatively early. You know, just so much damage, and I feel like honestly, maybe Ivysaur is the worst Pokemon at this point, but still some of the best juggling, if not the best juggling in the entire game. Probably not the best just because she's a little too floaty, but Ivysaur's still an amazing character after the nerfs in 4.0, but Charizard got them buffs though. Charizard is so scary now. The neutral is so frightening. Nair is so much safer. F-Tilt is way better. F-Smash is way better. Why did they make Flare Blitz better? Why did they make forward throw a kill throw? This character is so consistently scary. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is not like an, ugh, I have to switch to Charizard. I hope I get this kill now. It's like, I'm going to switch to Charizard and you're going to die. Obviously still has super armor up B. You have back air being crazy. Back throw into back air is going to be a combo. The edge guarding of this character is so scary just because of how strong the aerials are. The edge trapping with flamethrower, with Nair, with F smash reads. You know, this character just is so good, and being able to switch between all of them on the fly, making your opponent constantly doubt what's happening and constantly switch game plans is so good from a mental aspect that Pokemon Trainer is easily top tier, and now I think definitely top 10. We've seen so many Pokemon Trainers. Actually, Pokemon Trainer is, I think, the most represented top tier, either Trainer or Peach, and that is like not really that bad thing. If you are the second most common top tier with so many good matchups and so many strong attributes to your character, that means you're pretty damn good. On the 9.5, we have Palutena, and maybe it's because I am picking her up and so I realize just how silly this character is and how just fast this character is and how dominant and neutral this character is, but wow, this character is not a lot better than I thought she was, but definitely better than I thought she was. Has such powerful neutral tools in terms of dash attack, back air, nair, auto theoretical. Like, just their speed in general, forward air is -2 on shield. It's -2, that's like the safest aerial in the entire game. That and like Fox Snare, I'm pretty sure actually it's the safest aerial in the entire game, which is ridiculous. His character gets like 50% off of an air, has like the best stand and grab in the entire game, I'm pretty sure, especially considering like how small she is, has a great kill throw, has kill confirms with down throw back air, has down tilt as an edge trapping tool, has a really good edge guarding, as I mentioned earlier, and as I've mentioned a couple times, Palutena is a character that just shuts down so many characters. Like, oh, what are your bad matchups? Palutena and Pikachu, and Palutena is just always in that conversation unless you are a top tier, in which case most of your matchups are even. Like, I definitely think Palutena loses several matchups, but they're all basically in top tier and maybe the highest of high tier. Like, doesn't lose that many at all. You know, mostly, you know, not a lot of cheese that this character has, but she's just so abnormally solid that she's just absolutely fantastic of a character. Maybe top 5, I can consider some arguments for that, but I think the top 5 are a little bit too strong, so I'm gonna put her in like the 6 to 8 range. Moving along, we have another super solid character in Inkling, who's still going to be in the 9.5 rating. This character obviously has the best dash in the entire game due to the fact that it will low profile the majority of things, has up throw up air as a kill confirm, has, you know, crazy damage output because of Ink, has one of the best aerials in the entire game with back air, which I think is also -2. That and Palutena Fair are absolutely ridiculous. This character's neutral is just so solid, one of the best in the entire game. It's a really frustrating character to play against, hard to edge guard, really good edge trapping because of Splat Bomb and down tilt. And again, if you get hit by Splat Bomb or Roller or Jab, which is frame 2 by the way, now you're fully inked and everything's going to do so much damage. The damage output of this character is ridiculous. Frame data is really solid. You know, the one problem that this character has, the only reason they're not as guaranteed top 5 in my opinion, is because of the fact that if you don't hit that up throw up air, it is actually sometimes very difficult to get those kills because Inkling, not the best edge guarding character, and the edge trapping isn't honestly going to kill for the most part, so you're going to have to get those rollers or that back throw at 160, which is totally like a super high percent considering all the top tiers and what they kill at. And you know, even though the dashing and the movement is super solid, there's not a lot of disjoint on Inkling, so a lot of the times trading can honestly lead to losing stocks way earlier than you intend, especially against characters like Shulk or like Palutena or like Snake, which can just kind of throw up tilts out and just kind of hit you as you're trying to get backers, as you're trying to get pressure and stage control. But this character's so fast, so solid, definitely easily a top tier character, definitely 9.5. And the last character in 9.5 is going to be Shulk. Not because I don't think Shulk's broken, I think this character easily deserves to be in 10, but he is so difficult to the point where you mess up one little thing because he's just so technically demanding and so mentally strenuous that like, oh, you just kind of messed up your entire stock and you just lost. Like, oh, you wasted your shield art, you're dead. Oh, you wasted your jump art, you're gonna die to edge guarding. Like, this character is so fickle just because of that, but otherwise, this character is insane, has some of the most versatile tools in the entire game in the 5 Monado arts, has ridiculous kill potential, ridiculous damage, ridiculous combo breaking, ridiculous speed and safety on aerials. This character is so good. I'm so happy Kome finally had a run. I'm so happy Nico also had a run. The Shulks are coming up. You know, they've just been Shulk players for so long that they just understand how this character works. But again, I do feel like also struggles pretty hard in the Pikachu and the Snake matchup, which are two characters that are above him. Spoilers, even though I haven't, you know, mentioned them yet. I think this character, that's like basically the only matchups this character loses, definitely invalidates a lot of rapid jabs, a lot of edge guarding attempts because of jump art and shield art for the first one. Like, this character has so many tools, but if you remember that and you pressure Shulk in the same way twice, that is going to be very difficult for them to deal with because they lost the art that they needed and it's a 24-second cooldown per art. You know, they have varying times in terms of how long they're active, but 24 seconds overall, which is really, really important to keep track of. But yeah, this character is too hard for him to be a guaranteed 10 in my opinion, because it's not even like consistently technical. It's like you have to just be constantly thinking of everything on the fly, which is so hard. And then of course you have dial storage, which is like a super broken mechanic, but I mean, we'll take those, and Shulk's probably going to be in my 10 out of 10, my rating of 10 at some point, because I know, I mean, I still consider him the best 9.5, I still consider him top 5, because that is how few characters we have, but not quite a 10 just because he's too hard. And we have reached the summit of the summit, the top of the top. We have my rating of 10. And just to clarify again, all 4 of these characters are interchangeable. They can all be first, all second, all third, and all fourth. There's honestly just depending on the day and what you want to value. I think these characters are all absolutely amazing. So let's get into it. And I'm going to get it out of the way. First off, I'm going to talk about Pikachu. I do think Pikachu, like any of these 4 characters, have the potential to be the best character in the game. They all lose a couple matchups, and honestly, they mostly lose to each other, to be fair, but I think Pikachu is so solid, has an amazing disadvantage state, has crazy combos, has the best edge guarding in the entire game, has just crazy disjoints, is able to camp, is able to play aggressive, is able to play mid-range and bait and punish. He's just so versatile of a character. He can just switch to everything on the fly, which is really difficult, but I'm also biased because I am the player that does it, and I'm able to switch very easily, so I don't consider it as difficult as, let's say, Peach or Shulk or something like that. But this character is just so versatile. I'm sure you've heard me talk about Pikachu so much, so if you want to learn about Pikachu, I have guides on my YouTube, I have all these resources, I have so many things. I'm going to be making my up air, like how broken up air is video pretty soon. I think it's going to be like soon after this, like a couple weeks, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, Pikachu busted. He's nice as hell. The next character I'm going to talk about is Peach. Obviously, Peach has been a crazy tournament threat since the beginning of the game. She got nerfed and is still absolutely fantastic. The defensive play of this character is so strong. The damage output of this character is so strong. The ability to combo off of basically anything. The only thing this character struggles with is she randomly has even matchups with a couple mid tiers like King Dedede and like Samus and like Duck Hunt, but those aren't really losing matchups in my opinion. It's just kind of a struggle because it's so hard to imagine that Peach has a lot of losing matchups in general just because of how much damage output she has. I think the two solid losing matchups in my opinion would be Shulk and Joker because just big sword, and then they're able to contend with her in the air. But like you even have seen Samsora with the technology beating Leo at Shine, taking multiple sets off of him now, so it's not even like an unwinnable matchup. Like if your only losing matchups are 45-55, your character's broken as hell. You know, of course, she has RNG turnips that can just make her win games. It's so hard to hit her in disadvantage because of float. It's so hard to hit her in neutral because of float. You know, she has such consistent killing, even though it's not as good as it used to be. Fair is still amazing, and her arrows are so safe. Her pressure is so crazy. She forces you to be in shield, and you're constantly just guessing and mixing up your timings, and then oops, you got grabbed and took 25 because down throw back air comboed, and then now you're off stage, and she's going to down air 2-frame you into forward air you at 75 at the legend. You're just going to die. This character is ridiculous. Don't let Samsora fool you. This character is much better than Palutena. And the last two characters I'm going to talk about are the same last two I talked about in the last tier list, which are going to be Snake and Joker. Snake, the best defensive character in the entire game. Grenade Shield is such a polarizing option. The stage selection for this character in the current meta is ridiculous. I think FD and Smashville are his two worst stages, but he just bans those, and then every other stage is a really good Snake stage because you either have platforms to camp on or you have room to camp on. He has down throw F tilt, he has crazy combo conversions, he's just so solid. The only problem with this character is sometimes characters can keep him in the juggle situation, but a lot of the times that's a player versus player thing and not so much a character thing, because he does have access to B-reverse grenades and just fast fall turnaround grenades and fast fall air dodge, and all those options are so good for Snake, and you have to be so perfect in order to hit them and not click the grenade and not hit it, and it's just so difficult. But sometimes this character can lose momentum, but at the same time, this character is the best comeback character in my opinion in the entire game, yes, including Joker with Arsene. Like, Snake is never out of a game. I've never felt so pressured in any game compared to Snake in this game, because he hits you with 2 grenades and then a back air and suddenly you're at 40, and then he edge traps you because he has some of the best, if not the best, edge trapping in the entire game with up smash and down smash, because it can 2-frame or just kind of outspace your get up attacks. And then he has Nikita, which is one of the best edge guarding tools, still one of the best moves in the entire game. Down tilt, an amazing poke. Down throw, up tilt, going to be guaranteed kill at 160. So many characters get down throw F tilted. This character is just so solid, so good. Unfortunately, it is so hard to be good with this character. So many little decisions, kind of similar to Shulk. Not quite as difficult as Shulk in my opinion, but still very difficult. So honestly, it is the players keeping Snake down. It is not Snake keeping the players down. And of course, the most dominant player in the game right now, MKLeo, plays the most dominant character in the game right now, and that is Joker. Crazy combos, crazy speed, whiff punishing, that's insane. A pretty good recovery, although it is exploitable by a couple characters. Only loses a very small handful of matchups, probably I think like Pikachu, Mega Man, and maybe Inkling, and that's probably gonna be about it. You know, just absolutely solid. Obviously it has Arsene, which is basically an install character that makes him just so much better. Crazy damage, crazy edge guarding, crazy killing combos. He has like an infinite on a platform that I think you can SDI out of, but it's fairly difficult, so like whatever. But like this character, so good on platforms, so good on flat stages. They just have so much versatility in everything that they do. Also one of the best doubles characters. It's just ridiculous. If you want to understand how good this character is, just watch MKLeo. Like Nair is -5, Downer is not safe on shield as far as I'm aware, but like, it's so hard. It's so scary to be just like around this character. It's so scary to run away from this character. It's so scary to run at this character because so many options of this character are so strong. Joker is so amazing, and I've rambled a lot. You can go back to my previous tier list if you want a more detailed ramble, because it's 6 in the morning. I'm honestly really tired of talking because I've been talking on this tier list for a while. And yeah, that is going to be about it. I'm going to have the ratings of all the characters on the screen now, so you can have a more formal opinion, or like a more like formalized kind of like list of it. Again, please remember that everyone in each tier is basically able to be interchanged. I think the only exception to that is Shulk and Inkling are better than the rest of 9.5, but that's going to be about it for that, and that is going to be about it for this video. As always, social media, Panda and partner stuff is down below, and I will see you all next time.